Testing 1, 2, 3. Well, that's enough of that. Good morning, weirdos. How are y'all today? Good, I hope. This is your head weirdo here. Totally, I'm ahead. I'm not really. I'm catching up. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm still on my Lucas Nelson high here. This is my shirt from the previous show. Yeah, I'm pretty darn excited about it. Yeah, I watched a couple of good movies over the weekend. Well, I mean, I kind of watched. I was editing video, and I had these movies on the telephone here while I was editing. But I got into some Animal House, and I got into some Blues Brothers, man. You know, along with my usual regiment of old TV and movies. Yes, sirree, Baba Rooney. So I'm coming to you this morning on People and Blogs. I had previously had my my viewer settings on entertainment. After talking with Enviced from Bernay, we agreed that it probably would be best to try out the People and Blogs, since this is a video blog. So I'm going to try this setting for a while, perhaps the rest of the season, and see if I get any new viewers. I hope that I don't lose any old viewers because of my setting change. So we'll just have to wait and find out, right? Quick mention this morning. I would like to say hello to my friend Chris from the old Elsinore days. He now lives up in Oregon, and he works for a company called Maggie's Auto Farm. It is not an auto farm per se. They don't raise cars or trucks there. It's not a truck ranch. It's not a pick apart. It's not a junkyard. It's not a go find your parts place. Maggie's Auto Farm is the websites, the internet, the interwebs, best source for marijuana seeds. So if you want to grow some marijuana, then you want to call or go to Maggie's Auto Farm and look for some marijuana seeds. Now, I will probably be hitting up Maggie's Auto Farm for some marijuana seeds. Once or twice a year, I like to grow a plant or two. Reminds me of, nature, life. and it's a free buzz. So I will be hitting them up for some cool Gucci seeds. Now me, I like to do the old throwback, right? So Jack Herrer, Chocolate Tie, Acapulco Gold, Fallbrook Red Hair. So if there are any of these strains available there, Chris, hook me up, brah. Let's see. I spent the weekend putting together a few more music videos from concert footage. Please stop in and check them out on the playlist. Crazy Old Weird Bearded Guy Goes to a Concert. All right. So check out that playlist, or goes to a show, concert show, one of those things. So check that out. You might find something you like. Right now, I'm concentrating on older mainstream video footage. And I just dug up older mainstream, meaning like Harry Styles, 1975, stuff that you'd see at a big giant arena, or coliseum, or stadium, or something, right? And I'm also uploading whatever I can find from Pappy and Harriet's. I just found another 5-minute video from Big Sandy and his Fly-Rite Boys. So I spent the weekend editing it and saving and processing and all of that stuff. Now, when I edit one of these, the video that I just did with Big Sandy, it's 7 minutes long, right? In its entirety after it's edited. And you can save it in different size formats, 480, 720, 1080 or something. So you can save it in all these different sizes. So when I'm doing a rough draft, depending on how many overlays of elements I have on a video over the actual video and around it, saving just a draft can take hours. To save a completed copy, it can take up to 6 hours. Now, this may be just because I have a slow-ass computer, or that's just maybe the way it is. I don't know. If I had a fast computer, I could tell you whether it was the computer or not. But while I really wanted to upload this one over the weekend, it kept biting me with technical difficulties. The sound was off at one point. I had a couple of typos. So after saving it twice and reviewing it as a completed file, I went back a third time and fixed the last of the situations, and then edited some video for Maggie's auto farm. I did a 90-second promo for Maggie's auto farm, and I put together the entire video, 90 seconds, and now I just need to go back and write the copy for it and figure out some sound effects, find a voice for the narration, and then kind of lay it all out. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about doing the voiceover. I've got some ideas. What I'll probably do is just come up with a bunch of ideas, write out a long 90-second copy, and then just record it over and over and over again until it sounds right. Record it in pieces so that I can splice it together in the correct place that I want the. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm finished with the. I'll keep my fingers crossed. I'm finished with the latest Big Sandy video, and after the show, I'm going to review it and then hopefully upload it to YouTube. And then, and then I get to share it with Big Sandy, and hopefully he will appreciate it. I did a lot of editing work on this. It's my videos from concerts are always one angle. That's pretty much all I get. You know, you get the seat that you get, and you shoot your video from that seat. So I try to use whatever kind of special effects I have, which isn't much. I'll take a regular camera angle shot, and I'll zoom in so that it's now widescreen television shot. And then I can usually grab a pretty good shot of the stage like that. And then on occasion, what I'll do is I'll zoom up into the monitor, the live monitor at the concert, and grab video off of that and shrink the screen in around that and then blow that up. And I can do that. It's, you know, sometimes it gets a little grainy, like the Linda's video that I uploaded. It's just a short. The video is not that great because my phone is not that great. I will be getting my daughter's hand-me-down Apple phone, and that should help my video quality as well as my sound quality. So let's see. I'm gonna spark up a little pain here, a little painkiller. So I've got some friends, at least, you know, at one point in my life, I had friends. Friends up in northern Nevada, Northern California, Mammoth Mountain, Mammoth Lakes area. A lot of people from Lake Elsinore days and the Renaissance Fair days, the Renaissance Pleasure Faire. Now there were some days, right? Yeah, I better make a few notes here. Oh, sweet home Chicago. So totally. Yeah, the Renaissance Pleasure Faire days. And there were some days. I'll have to load up you know, I meant to make a slideshow of me so that at some point I could just go to my screen and share photos. But I did not do that. I spent my time editing video, which I think was probably a better use of my time. I need a secondary computer. If I had a secondary computer, I could do the live show and edit video at the same time. I'll kind of do what I do on my show while I'm doing my show. That would be kind of neat. And then at some point, it would be nice to have a way to share both computers. Totally, man. So back to the Renaissance Pleasure Faire days. Back in 1991, 90 or 91, I want to say it was 1991, man. All right. And All right, I'm going to say 90 or 91. Let's see. My friend Andy, who now goes by Andrew, my longtime friend, Andrew, and I were invited to the Renaissance Pleasure Faire by my father. Now, back in the late 80s, early to mid 90s, my father fixed office machinery. Yes. He had gotten into a work injury related situation and had retrained to clean and repair office machinery, faxes, copiers, printers, that kind of stuff. It was a whole different ball game back in the 80s and 90s when it came to office machinery. It wasn't, you couldn't just watch a YouTube on how to clear a paper jam, right? You couldn't just, things weren't so easy to use that you could just, pick something up and figure it out. Now, when somebody has trouble with their printer, they throw it away and they get a new one. That's just the way it is. Copy machines, more like printer faxes, all in one scanner deal. That's kind of what's going on now. Bigger places, yeah, they have copy machines and faxes and machinery and that kind of stuff. But like I said, it's a whole different ball game when it comes to repairing. Sure, a lot of the big places still have machines and have what do you call it? Service contracts. So back in the day, my father would fix and repair machines for various people around the Riverside County, San Bernardino County, all the way as far down as like Temecula, right? And then above Riverside and in San Bernardino. And then sometimes into Orange County. He worked for a Complete Business Systems, CBS, for a few years. So the Renaissance Pleasure Faire, he on occasion would fix machinery for people and get tips, get gifts in return. So on one occasion, he fixed some office machinery for friends of the fair. And they are, I believe they are still, pardon me, an organization devoted to the Renaissance Pleasure Faire, keeping things real, right? And helping the Renaissance Pleasure Faire. Now, when the Renaissance Pleasure Faire in the 1990s, throughout the 1990s, at some point in the 80s, and then they became out in they had begun let me start over again. So back in the 60s, I believe, the Renaissance Pleasure Faire started in Agoura Hills, California. After a while, they got too big and they moved to Devore, where the US Festival was. All right. San Bernardino, where the 15 and the 215 freeways merge back together before they go north into Vegas. All right. Coffee. So they held the Renaissance Pleasure Faire out on these huge fairgrounds, which had a lot of grass and trees, a lot of trees and grass and paths that meandered through the trees and the grass. They had an island and a pond, a fishing pond, and an island out on the pond that you could take a little bridge out onto. Wasn't an actual, I guess it was an island. A lot of ducks. It was a duck island, you know, so you found a lot of ducks and duck shit. And but it was the island was also the best place to go hang out and get high during the Renaissance Fair. I'll warm up this coffee and do a little coffee. All right. So, back to my beginning experiences with the Renaissance Fair. No wedgie, no wedgie, no wedgie. My father had acquired 3 or 4 passes, or just a bunch of passes to any weekend at the Renaissance Fair. Maybe it was the next weekend or something. I just remember that Andy had been working a few years as a security guard, mainly at casinos in Los Angeles. And while he enjoyed, as a younger person, enjoyed getting his guard card and learning how to use firearms, and then he was a collector of firearms and weapons. And then at some point, he realized that the $8.50 or something that he was getting at the time was not enough to pull his gun and shoot somebody over money. Right. And he decided to stop wearing his gun to work, and eventually stopped working as a security guard altogether, because he just his thinking had changed. I think maybe my father had a little to do with it, having been a Vietnam veteran and his experiences. But I don't know. I don't recall the whole. That's a long time ago. I don't recall the whole situation. I just know that at one point he was happily working away his graveyard shift at a casino, and then at some point he was just done with it. And so my father comes home and Andy's there, and he's like, I got these tickets to the Renaissance Fair this weekend. You guys want to go? And we're like, sure, what the hell, right? Why not? So the old man takes us, and the old man, all right, let me set the record straight. My father, the old man, who at the time was in his 40s. Yeah, so he would have been somewhere in his 40s, late 30s, early 40s. I'm going to say early 40s. All right, he would have been out of his 30s by 87. So he's in his early 40s, and at this point, he still hasn't changed. He's a big time perv. He likes to go to big events with a lot of people, so he can get kind of pervy, and maybe rub up against some boobies or squeeze some buns, or get some pictures with some hotties. And he's got tons of pictures with hot girls from different events that he used to like to go to. The Moon the Amtrak event at Mugs Away Saloon in San Juan Capistrano. And if you've never heard of that, it's held at a saloon that sits right up against the Amtrak railroad line. Okay. And the Amtrak railroad goes by there like hourly, It's just a regular thing for the Amtrak to go zooming by. So they have this patio out, right? And somebody started, as the Amtrak would go by, a couple of drunk guys got out there one time and dropped their pants hanging over the rail and mooned the Amtrak as it went by. And then, of course, some girls got in and they would show their breasts. Well, this turned into an annual event. And it spilled out onto the rest of the world outside of Mugs Away Saloon and onto the track, so that when the train would go by, it wasn't just a little patio. It was now everything around the tracks for a quarter mile. People would line up along this Amtrak rail, and when the train starts coming through, everybody drops their pants and shows their ass to the Amtrak. Well, now in the morning when the Amtrak is going by, that's no big deal. Later in the day, as people start to show up, and it's an all day, all night thing because the Amtrak's always going by. So you got the you got all these people now showing up annually to drop their pants for this passing train. Now in the morning, the train just zoom going by fast. Okay, by the afternoon, the train's going by slower. By the late afternoon, early evening, the train is creeping by this place so that people inside can take photographs, so that they can interact with the crowd, right? I mean, it's a complete Southern California phenomenon, right? It's just crazy weird to see all of these grown people out there exposing themselves to a big train, right? So this is one of my father's favorite events. He would go to this as often as he could, and mainly it was to check out all of the bodies and the skin and the flesh and the curves, right? And there's nothing wrong with appreciating the human form, especially with those who are willing to share it openly, right? Yeah. So he would also go to a thing down on Festival Island in San Diego. Festival Island is it's located down there just north of SeaWorld in San Diego. And Festival Island is a big, giant, I think it's a man-made sand bar island. It's just a huge, giant sand dune off the coast with a little bridge road, maybe a bridge. It's probably just like a rock dike going out there. But you get out there and there's tons of parking, and they do what's called the Over the Line Festival. All right, the Over the Line is a 3-man team baseball game. All right. And it's a pitcher, a catcher, and an outfielder, and that's it. And then you got 3 hitters, and that's it. That's the game. Baseball with 3 people on each team over the line. It's played in a long stretch. It's not played in a diamond. It's played in. I'll have to look up the rules and regulations on the Over the Line tournament. But that's another thing where it's all about skin. It's all about sexuality and people dry humping each other. And that was just one of the things my father was into, was just seeing a lot of boobies, right? Nothing wrong with boobies, right? My friend over here, Leaf, just had a baby. Him and his wife, or his girlfriend, just had a baby the other day. Nice, happy little baby boy. So we stopped by, did the usual neighborly new baby in town thing with some flowers and baby clothes and a little bit of weed for the dad. But yeah, there's a new baby in town. So there's nothing wrong with boobies. You know, boobies provide milk. Boobies provide entertainment. They provide warmth, a freaking pillow, you know, conversation piece. You know, boobies, boobies, boobies. I wish I had bigger boobies. I could keep myself busy all day. But yeah, enough about that. So he gets these tickets to the Renaissance Fair. And as it turns out, the Renaissance Fair is pretty much the same kind of thing. It's a lot to do about sexuality. The thing is that it's staffed mainly by a lot of young people, all right? Not young. There were some high school students and junior high students and younger people, but usually they were there because of their parents, right? You had a lot of late high school and college students, thespians, not lesbians, thespians. I don't even like them. So anyway, so there was it's a lot of young people there, and a lot of young people like us at the time, learning about sexuality and partying and different kinds of people and a different kind of world and stuff. So we go there, and I remember, I just, you know, it flashes on me. I remember pulling up into the parking lot and looking around at all of the bizarre costumes of the people who were just showing up to go in and play for the day and then go home, right? They were showing up in costume. It was like cosplay, right? Back in the day. I knew nothing about cosplay back then. And now all of a sudden, we're surrounded by people in costumes, all right? And Renaissance Pleasure Fair. So you get a wide range, medieval, all the way up to almost Elizabethan, right? So you get this wide range of costumes that show up. A lot of them are anachronistic. They don't belong in that time period. But a lot of people show up the first couple of shows without costume on. And then after a while, it's like, okay, they got to have some kind of costume. And they just go on to the first costume they can find, right? And then after a while, if they're really into it, they eventually start putting together a real Renaissance Fair, time correct costume, right? So we go there and we're like, oh my God, this is like way too much. Andy and I go into culture shock, and we go into we freak out. I mean, basically, there are so many young people around, just like us, all right? But they're wearing costumes. They're speaking in an archaic dialect, using weird language, right? And speech patterns and accents and stuff that are like, whoa, this is heavily weird. Every time you turn around, there's something different going on with the people, with the way they dress, the way they look, the way they talk, the way they smell. I mean, literally every single thing about the Renaissance Fair was a complete mind blower, right? Booth after booth of odd merchandise and consumables being offered to you by very unusual people, to say the least. So my friend and I, we kind of hung around with the old man for a little while, and then we just had to bust out and go free, and we just started roving around. And I wasn't, back in the day, I was always beholden to a friend, not always, but most of the time, for money. I was always broke, right? There were a lot of periods where, when I had work and I had the extra money, you know, I would buy a bunch of concert tickets and take everyone I knew, or throw my own birthday party and invite everybody over to party, Um, but so having Andy along was always great for me, because he always had a few extra bucks to help me out. Um, ever since junior high, when I tried to sell him a joint, to make some lunch money, and we decided to smoke the joint after school instead. Uh, but also because he was very charismatic and easy on the eyes and had a way with girls. So everywhere he went, there were a lot of girls around, and that meant, and he couldn't handle them all. So that meant that I could always find some kind of female companion. Um, you know, and that was cool. That was totally cool. But the Renaissance Fair, oi, that was crazy. That was just crazy. The girls were just coming out of everywhere, right? And they all wanted a piece of him. I've got photographs of him laying on his back on the lawn with two girls at a time, hand feeding him funnel cake, right? Um, all he had to do was buy a shirt and a hat, and he was in. Every every touristy girl that came through there wanted a picture with this guy. Uh, and that was great, because I was always hanging out talking with some cutie. I mean, I wasn't looking to nail every broad that I came in contact with, but hanging around with him gave me options. Right. Arr. Yeah, that was good times. So we go there, and he's like, yeah, this is the place. The first day we go there, we just walk around and we eat, we drink, we be merry. We have a ball, we see some shows, we really fall in love with the place. Well, we decide that we're coming back flat out. Okay, today is like Saturday. It's like, okay, we can come up again tomorrow. It's not that expensive. Andy's going to get us a couple of tickets, and we're gonna go home, and we're gonna put it together, and we're gonna come back. Right? It's like, right on. That's cool. And so we come back, and at this point, we just come back to play. And I think we say, hey, let's see if we can get some of the guys to come with us, right? And at some point we do. At some point, that first couple of weeks that we start going, we actually bring some friends to come check it out, and they're like, "Wow, you guys are weird." But so we go back again, I think the next day or the next weekend, and that's when my friend Andy buys a hat and a shirt and starts picking up little. He gets a little ocarina to put around his neck, just like Joey played on Stalag 17 by Otto Preminger with William Holden, right? Great fucking movie. So he's got to have an ocarina, right? And so he gets this cute little, like, purple blue glazed clay. It's just a beautiful thing. I don't know if he still has it or not, but man, that would be neat to still have. And then, of course, I can't afford costume stuff, not like that. But because Andy can, he has always kind of held on to all the cute and cool and weird, strange little things that he acquired throughout the 80s, right? So his bedroom is just filled with, I mean, just this cornucopia of crap. Well, in his cornucopia of crap, he has a full-blown black ninja costume, from the split-toe shoes, boots that tie up all the way up to your knees, right? The black pants, the black shirt, the gi that folds over and ties, the hood, the gloves, right? The gauntlets, the works, right? So he has this full-blown ninja costume that I don't know why he got it. You know, one of those magazine purchases back in the 80s. You see it in the back of it, get a full ninja costume. And it was fucking awesome. So he didn't really have a use for it other than the occasional costume party or, you know, Halloween or whatever, right? So I'm like, hey, let me wear this ninja. I'll be the white ninja, right? And he's like, you're a cool, go ahead. So because we're the same size, we had been sharing clothes. Well, rather, he had been sharing his clothes and his shoes and his jacket and stuff with me, Mr. Poor Boy. God, I was lucky to have friends like him. Thanks, Andy. So he says, yeah, go ahead and wear this, you friggin' nut job. So I wear this ninja costume from head to toe, and most of the time I wear it with the hood, so people don't even know who I am. And I got long blonde hair, right? And I might have like a mustache at the time, a peach fuzz mustache. Because mind you, I am just over 20 years old, 21 years old, right? I am just of age. So I'm probably, at this point, I'm like 22 or 23, not real old. And yeah, better warm this coffee up again. But yeah, so give me a second, put my thoughts together. So yeah, I borrow his ninja costume. All right. Oh, no wedgie, no wedgie. And he buys himself a brown, I believe it was a brown pie hat, and that's basically just like a loose bag with a head strap, and you tuck all your hair in it, and you put it on, and you kind of pop it off to one side or the other in the back, or poofy or whatever. It looks like a pie hat or a chef's hat or something deflated. And they're really cool hats. So he got one of those, and I think he got a purple shirt, right? Big poofy, blousey, low cut, just big giant baggy sleeves, right? And then he had like a strip of leather, and tied it around his waist with like a little coin purse, right? And that was, I think, his first attempt at a costume. My first attempt at a costume was just trying to play dress up and be something other than just a white kid from Southern California. So it was neat to have that ninja costume, even though it was somewhat anachronistic, because at the time there was no real contact with Japan from anyone else in the world. They were pretty much an island to themselves. From what I understand about Japan back in the 1500s, is that they didn't everybody else were crazy, savage, weird people, and they wanted to stay alone. They didn't want contact with the outside world. If you remember the miniseries Shogun, right? That was a great TV series, miniseries, back in the late 70s, early 80s. Not exactly sure. Probably right on the cusp. I got a dog thing going on here. I'll be right back. Hi, Sam. How's it going? How you doing, Sam? You want to sit up here? Well, I got dogs that have to drink water and roam around and bug me until it's time for them to tell me to let them in another room. Hi, Sam. Good morning. How are you? I was just telling Nolan Special here about my Renaissance Pleasure Faire days. He's going to sit over there. So yeah, our first shot was kind of bland, but it was a lot of fun. Costume-wise, it was kind of bland. He had a great start to his costume. It wasn't until actually the following year when we decided we got to go back, and we found out about it early. And I mean, we literally, that first year that we went, we went every single day the rest of that season. We went up, we bought tickets, we went in, we spent from as early as we could get in with the opening of the gates to them at the end of the day pushing everybody out. At some point, Andy got, I think at the last weekend or something, Andy actually found some work and was able to spend time working at a booth, and that was pretty cool. The following year, right? So I think it was like 90 was the first year, and then 91 I think was the second year. The following year, it was like, okay, we gotta go back, and we did. He more so than I. For a couple of years in the 90s, early 90s, I floundered around a bit with some crazy broad that I was dating, and wound up out in Arizona and spent a year and a half screwing around out in Arizona, not getting much done, going to 3 schools, but not getting anything done. At some point, I figured out she was a kook, and I ran screaming back to Southern California. And then after a month in Southern California, no one around, I took another bus and went up to Northern California to Mammoth, where a couple of my friends were living at the time. Well, as it turned out, they had continued the Renaissance Fair thing in my absence. So when it came time for spring, it was like, hey, we're going to the fair. Everybody ready to go? And now it was my turn to go down there. And the thing was now to go down the weekend before the fair starts and camp for the whole weekend, party with everybody, find a job, get your costume approved, get your camping pass, get your work pass, get your Ren Fair ID, get all of these things taken care of so that during the Renaissance Fair, you show up on a Friday and set up your camp, get your work stuff together, and then you camp over the whole weekend. So you live there, work, live, work, play. The whole thing, the whole weekend, right, is all about the Renaissance Fair. And it's madness. It's complete and utter chaos with a purpose. And so it was my first experience doing it. Now, I believe that early in the 90s when Andrew and I went, we did this, and I started my costume, and I made a lot of my costume because I lived pretty much like a hermit. I lived with my father. We lived up in the hills in a bus, in a school bus, a converted school bus. And most of my days I spent reading like Robin Hood and old stuff from the 15th, 16th century. And I sat there and by hand, I sewed a doublet, a vest with hand carved wooden toggles for beads, for buttons. While I bought a shirt and a pair of pants, everything else I made. I made my own vest. I made my own hat. I made my own gauntlets. I made my own boots. I made black leather boots, hand stitched with leather soles, hard leather soles, and black leather outsides. I took the black leather from like a pair of pants that I had, and I cut them up and hand stitched this pair of lightweight black leather boots, and had rabbit fur that I attached to the tops. And I used to fix those things on a regular basis, because I would lose a stitch, the sole would pop loose, and I was constantly working on those shoes until I eventually bought a pair of Renaissance Fair approved, costume approved shoes. But I mean, when I started, it was a combination of a few different things, and then eventually I wound up with my costume, which was a pair of mustard colored pants and like a brown shirt, and then a vest that I bought there. And it was like all three pieces, main pieces I bought there, you know, one weekend at a time when I could afford it. And then added to that with a lot of rabbit fur, a lot of leather pieces. They had scrap leather and scrap rabbit fur and scrap this and that and materials and things that you could just kind of dig through baskets and find. How much is this? It's 25 cents. And I would just grab up a bunch of shit and then take it back to my tent and then kind of lay it all out and figure out how I could turn it into something to add to my costume. And that was pretty fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun being creative with that costume. And it changed every weekend. I was wearing a different configuration. So yeah, at some point I stopped going after the first couple of years and was gone for a couple of years, and then came back, and came back with a vengeance. Of course, everybody else had never left it, and they had been doing it for a few more years than me. So everybody had better costumes. They had all been camping and working. They had made a lot of friends at the Renaissance Fair, and they had done a lot of weird stuff. So when I came back and was reintroduced to it anew with all of this other, now we're camping full time. We know all these people, and we got all these job opportunities there, costume opportunities, right? And it was crazy. It was it was normal for them, but for me, every single minute was a new experience. The shower line at any time during the day or night was a line of people waiting to get into the showers. Were a trailer with like 4 or 6 rooms, and in each room there was a little dressing room and then a shower and a curtain in between, and you could go in, get undressed, hang your stuff up, get into the shower, and then there was a huge line for hot showers because you spent all day and night in the dirt. So everybody was always filthy. The neat thing about the shower line, my father would have loved it, and he did the one time that we brought him with us to the camping experience. After he introduced us a few years later, we brought him out, and he hung out with us for the weekend. I think he just drove out and then stayed the evening and then left late. But yeah, that was the shower line, you know, a line filled with mostly dressed people, with the occasional naked couple, naked person. It was always, at any given time, you could find a naked person standing in this line, you know, and they would just take off all of their clothes at the tent, put on a hat and grab their shower stuff, and towel and little toiletry bag, and they'd walk over to the shower and they'd stand in line at the shower, you know. And it never, you know, I'm kind of pervy, at least I was back then. So, you know, I always got off on, I was like, wow, man, that's cool. Naked bodies. Wow, man. But I had been seeing naked bodies since I was a wee one, growing up around hippies and counterculture and shit. So, so it was not, you know, it wasn't anything for me. It was really neat. And my friends were like, yeah, we're veterans, man. We've been seeing these naked bodies, and, you know, for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. I was like, okay. Yeah. But with me, I mean, I was like, well, yeah, right, dude. I'm the one that took you guys to Black's Beach to see naked people for the first time. So don't even tell me, right? Um, yeah, I don't even know what I was going to write there. But so yeah, after being out of it for a while, I came back and had to put a new costume together. By this time, I was living and working in Mammoth Lakes as a painter. I had done a little bit of painting before that, but my friend Chris, who had been painting for, you know, half of the 80s and half of the 90s, he got me some work painting, which was really cool. I think that was Envision Painting up in Mammoth. And cool laid back company, and I was able to come in and learn, and I got raises, you know, relatively quick, because the more you do, the more you learn, the better you are, the more you can handle stuff. It's just common for you to move up the ladder real quick. It doesn't help if you're a young, blonde, good-looking guy and your boss happens to be in the closet gay, right? So maybe some of that monetary reward was him and his way of saying, hey, right? So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm living and working in Mammoth. And a friend of mine that I had met, a friend of my mother's that I had met in Arizona, a girl, Kristen, she had been trying to get out of that landlocked place, Phoenix and Scottsdale, forever. And when I said, well, I'm going back to California, she saw that as an opportunity to get the hell out of Dodge. So I came out back to California and hung out trying to find somebody or something. Found a few people. And then within a month, she had put her shit together and kissed off the world over there and took a bus and met me in Temecula. From Temecula, we both took a bus to Mammoth. And while I would go live back and forth from Mammoth to Awanga, the Temecula area, while I would move back and forth a couple of times, I mainly lived in Mammoth from about the mid 90s to the late 90s. So 2 or 3, 4 years in there, I lived and worked up in Mammoth. And my friend Kristen came out and went up there with me. And I didn't have any real plans on what to do. It was like, yeah, come on up. We got a place on the floor. So I literally went up there, found a place behind the couch in the living room on the floor, and set up shop there. And now I'm homeless on a friend's floor, behind the couch, and um, that place was a party house. There was always something going on. And I got there, and I had lived and worked in Mammoth in the early 90s, um, during that brief period with the crazy woman, um, that I went out to Arizona with. Before we went out to Arizona, we had gone to Mammoth and tried to work up there and spent a season in the winter. So it was a long battle with this broad, but yeah, crazy. So this was not my first time working on the mountain, but I, went up there and got a job. Was working, I think, on the mountain when I first got there. Went up, got a job. So I would sleep behind the couch during a party, and I would just put on my little tape player, put an old time radio show cassette in there, put on my headphones, crank it up, lay back there, pull a blanket over me, and go to sleep. Um, and then get up in the morning, get dressed, stick in some four non blondes into that, or some doors, that Walkman, and take myself on the bus up to the mountain and go work on the mountain. And I did that until I got working in the spring with Chris doing painting, and did that. Once I started painting, um, I started taking winters off, um, because I didn't want to work on the mountain. I had burned myself out on the mountain. Um, at one point, I was a fry cook, happily working away on the mountain until I borrowed my supervisor's snowboard to go out on the mountain, because it's all free, right? To go skiing and snowboarding and stuff. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to take advantage of this pass that I got. I've never used it. Don't ski, don't snowboard. My supervisor says, here, take this board, go out on the mountain, have some fun, learn how to try it, right? So like, oh, sure. So I go out, I go up and down Sesame Street, the kid slopes, and it's just like a very gradual. So I learned what I'm doing, and it's like, all right, well, I go up and I go up to another one, and I'm getting better. So I'm out with some friends, and it's like, all right, you're good enough now. Let's go and go up to a bigger chair 15 or something, right? So, or chair two. We go up to one of the bigger slopes, and I've learned how to fakie turn left and right. And so the most importantly is just how to stop and slow down. Um, and so I'm booking down the mountain, and I'm slowing down, and then I'm faking, and then I'm slowing down, and then so I'm kind of switching directions on each leg. Right leg, left leg, right leg, slow down, left leg, slow down, right leg, slow down. And I'm going back and forth. At one point, the binding on my right leg, um, breaks loose from the snowboard, and I go one way and the snowboard goes the other way, with my left leg still attached in the binding, right, via the foot, the ankle. So it totally blows out my knee and my ankle. uh, and I'm lying there, in a lot of pain, and I got no way down because I got no snowboard now, right? So um, I take the foot off, uh, my foot out of the one, and I've got my sorels on, down in the bindings. Um, so I've got one binding that I'm holding, and the board and the binding. So I was like, I'm just going to scoot this thing. Well, that's not allowed. You can't just sit on your board and scoot down the hill. So ski patrol shows up, and I said, yeah, I've fucked up my leg, and the board is fucked up, so I can't get down the mountain. He said, well, we're going to have to call a stretcher to get you down the mountain if you're injured. And I said, no, I'm not injured. So they put me on the back of this thing, and they took me down on the back of the snowmobile, rather than be put into a stretcher and be dragged down the mountain. Because I was injured, but I didn't want to go through that bullshit. I just wanted to get off the mountain. So I said, you know what? I'm not injured. All right, let's just say that. All right, I'm not injured. I'm sore, but I'm not injured. So I get down the mountain, and I get a few days off, and I go home, suck it up. And it's, it gets pretty swollen, and I can't move for a couple of days. So I finally go back to work, and I'm just kind of hobbling around the kitchen on the fry line. And it was the main lodge and the cafeteria. It was 2 lines that came through and then split off and went around the fry cook area. And I was in this little island cooking on grills, hopping around, guys. And I stood on my bad leg and pivoted and twisted my ankle and my knee and aggravated it. And so I asked to be sent home because I was injured. And of course, my supervisor made a big fucking deal out of it, was the manager, that I had injured myself at work and I need to go to the doctor and yada, yada, yada. And I said, I didn't injure myself at work. I was screwing around on and he didn't go for it. So I had to go to the doctor. It was mandatory. And so I get there, and my boss had called down to the doctor, to the hospital, and said, be sure to make him take a piss test. So it's like, oh, great. So I take a piss test and I fail. I've been smoking marijuana, of course, my whole fucking life. It's 6 a.m., March 11th, 2024. It's after 6 a.m. So after a while, I go back to work and they give me the bullshit about my piss test coming back positive that I've been using narcotics. And I'm like, so? Most of the fucking people on this mountain use fucking drugs, and all the rest of them are fucking alcoholics. And you give me shit for smoking. Fuck you. So I want to keep working. So I go through the bullshit. I stop smoking weed, and I go to Narcon, or the Narcos Anonymous, right? Narcotics Anonymous, right? It's like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And I have no desire to be here. I have no desire at all to stop smoking marijuana. Marijuana has been good to me my whole life. Marijuana kept me from fucking killing myself, all right? Kept me from doing all kinds of other harsh drugs. Kept me from being an alcoholic, right? It turned me off of cigarettes. I mean, if it wasn't for marijuana, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be a functioning member of society at all, ever. So I never wanted to stop smoking marijuana. Society wanted to point their little finger at me and go, you can't do that, right? So I was pretty pissed off when I had to go to this Narcotics Anonymous meeting. So much so that when I sat there during this meeting and listened to everyone sit around and snivel about poor me, how my life is so bad, and how drugs were so bad to me, and how I let my life, and it was like, you know what? None of these people's stories are me, right? I don't have a story other than I love marijuana. I'm going to smoke marijuana the rest of my life, right? I got busted at this job because they don't like me smoking marijuana, so I'm here. So, I got nothing. I'm not I got no problem with marijuana. I love marijuana. I'm going to smoke marijuana the rest of my fucking life. And boy, they didn't like that. I get kicked out of the meeting because I was too honest, right? That's what happens with me. I'm always too honest, and people don't like it. How dare he be honest? My God, your honesty upsets me. So once again, I said, yeah, fuck you people. And I worked at that job until I couldn't talk my way out of, well, I missed that meeting, and this, that, and the other. And I worked and worked and worked until they just said, you know what? Fuck it. You're not going to go through the bullshit that we want you to go through. So fuck you. By then it was close enough to spring. I could couch surf until I started painting. And then once I started painting, I went back to the fucking mountain again. I made enough money during the 8 months of painting during the summer months that I could take off 4 months during the winter and just not fucking work. Even when I rented my own studio apartment and lived by myself, right, I could still take the winter off. And what I did was In the spring, I would pay my rent, but also I would pay, pardon me, I would pay half a month's rent or a full month's rent ahead of time for the winter. So I would pay anywhere from a month to 2 months. Usually it was a month, month and a half of rent every month, so that by the time winter came, I didn't have to pay any winter rent. I could show my receipts. It's no, I already paid that. Um, and since I just went to the bank and made a deposit, I could just get a deposit slip and a receipt and tack those up and say, okay, there's that month, there's that month, there's that month. Now winter is done, and I've got a couple of months into the spring, so I don't even have to bother starting off, with a bang in the spring. And then I would collect unemployment because I would get laid off in the fall, right? So I would collect unemployment. So not only that, but I would have a huge savings, right? I would pay my rent for winter. I would save up money for the winter, so I had weed money, drinking money, videotape rentals, video game rentals, that kind of stuff. And I loved the video store up there. It was a video store / TV shop / stereo shop / record store / gift shop / everything. It was a bitchin' little hole in the wall at the shopping center. Yeah, so I would, pretty much just take the winter off, and everybody else was working. Everybody else had a winter job. Andy and Chris both worked at like Chicken Pizza or Las Sierras, or sometimes Chris would stay working on the mountain during the spring or the fall, and work at like Chair 15 or the hut, the warming hut too, and that was just a little lodge where you could find food and shopping and entertainment, and that kind of lockers. And so Chris spent a lot of time working on the mountain, as well did Andy and Steve and a couple of the other guys from Elsinore that had moved up there. But I just really wasn't into that, mainly because I didn't want to go through the bullshit. I already had a target on me, on my file for being a pot smoker, right? So I knew I would have to stop smoking and go through the bullshit. I didn't have to deal with that being a painter, right? And I could make enough money painting over the summer. I could just say, fuck you in the winter and just party. And mainly my partying consisted of staying in my own little studio apartment and watching movies, playing video games, fiddling around on a guitar. Pretty much my life is unchanging, because that's what I do now. I'm gonna have to get more cup of coffee here. I've got some houses to clean today, as I did on Saturday. Sunday, not so much. Sunday I just edited video, but yeah. So let's see. We did the Renaissance Fair. It takes us up, and then we moved up into Mammoth, which takes us to the end of the 90s. And I did the Renaissance Fair thing. Chris, he got into brewing beer. So during the weeks leading up to the Renaissance Fair, we would start brewing beer. We'd bust out the big vats and bottles and tubes and stuff. And he did this mail away thing, and then would drive somewhere to like what's that store? Trader Joe's. And he would get different kinds of hops and barley and wort stuff and flavorings. And so we got into making our own beer and ale and port and that kind of stuff. So we started saving bottles and buying new bags of bottle caps and getting a bottle capper. And it was a lot of fun. So for weeks, a month or so leading up to, every week we would brew a bunch of beer and we'd put it away in the closet, and it would be either in these big bottles, trying to get the sugar and the yeast and stuff to go, or we'd bottle them up and they'd be in the closet, fermenting, getting naturally carbonated. And I remember once we made this really nice nut brown ale that was just, it was like fabulous. It was like my favorite beer ever to this day. And it was just really, really nice, and had just had a great flavor, a great smell. It was just one of the most awesome things that we've ever made. And so at some point we would go to, like, the day before we'd be leaving down there to the Renaissance Fair, we would go shopping, and Chris would fill up a shopping cart filled with a 6-pack of this, a case of that, a 12-pack of this, every single kind of cool, weird Gucci beer that he could find, right? And so we'd take all of these beers and we'd stuff them into the car, and put a lot of them on ice. I was the food guy. I wasn't much of a drinker. While I did partake in a lot of the beer drinking and ale and lagers and stuff, I was a few beers a day. These guys were like 12 packs a day at the least, right? For one person. And if I had a 6-pack in one day, you're going to find me passed out somewhere. So I was the food guy. I was into, okay, well, that's fine. We're going to drink this, but what are we going to eat? All right. We need to have something at the camp that's going to sustain us other than beer. So I would worry about, well, what did they eat back then? All right. Bread, meat, cheese, right? And so that's what I would get. I would get big loaves of really, really good, rich, wholesome wheat breads, nutty stuff, something with some sustainability. And I had just gotten into Susie's Subs, right? There was a Subway up there, but Susie's Subs was great because they used all of this fresh baked bread, hand sliced meats, and they just made these really bitchin' sandwiches. So I was really getting into making supreme veggie sandwiches, right? And I mean, I would load these things up with everything, 2 or 3 kinds of cheeses, plus cream cheese, plus mayo and mustard, plus green onions and tomatoes and cucumbers and bell peppers and lettuce and spinach and sprouts and anything that I could possibly think on putting in a really righteous salad, I'd put on a sandwich. Occasionally we'd throw in some meats, but usually the meats were hunks of roasted chicken and bread and fruit, and that's what would be like a big lunch or dinner. Sandwiches, I would sit at camp at the Renaissance Fair, and I would just lay out a loaf of bread and just make 10 sandwiches on this really great sandwich bread that was just big slices, dark loaves with nuts. And I would sit there for an hour chopping up every single conceivable thing I could throw into a sandwich. And then people would start to pile in, in the evening or for lunch or something. And I would just start passing out sandwiches, and that was one of my, I've always been the food guy. I've always been the responsible guy. It's like, oh, look out, here comes Mr. Responsible. He's going to feed us. Look out. But yeah, if it wasn't something like that, it was like a big whole roasted chicken and a loaf of bread and a bunch of grapes or apples or something, And then, of course, beer. I'm gonna have to get some more coffee here. I need another cup. It's gonna be an interesting day today. Got to go clean a couple of houses, so that's cool. You know, got to pay the bills. Got to do it. So, but by the end of the 80s or by the end of the 90s, I had already come back to California, moved all the way up to Northern California, to Mammoth, and had worked on the mountain off and on, the ski mountain, the ski resort for the McCoy family. Really. And got burned out on that, and was branded a pot smoker. So I began painting. The painting thing really paid off, but I was getting burned out on the Renaissance Fair and a lack of direction with so many people. It's like all they wanted to do go there and hump and drink and get wasted and not remember what the fuck happened, right? And that was neat and all, but I was always the guy who was the most sober, who drank the least, who smoked the most, but had the most fun. You could find me walking around at nighttime in the Renaissance Pleasure Fair with my boombox and some ELO playing or some Bee Gees or something, right? Even back then, I was retro. I was totally throwback. But I just, I didn't. Mammoth was becoming a bummer. It was boring. I had stopped working. I had some issues with my boss and had him buy me out so I didn't have to, deal with legal action and stuff. So I was pretty much a free man, but I didn't want to work on the mountain anymore. I really couldn't because I was branded a pot smoker. I didn't want to continue painting anymore because it was just, it was just more painting. I mean, that was really, for me, it was dead end. There was just there was no getting out of, going from one paint job to another, to another, to another. That's fantastic for some people. For me, it became old. It just became tiresome. And while I did go back to painting off and on, from the mid 90s to the, up until 5 years ago, I still do some painting on occasion, but it's not my gig. It's not my main bread and butter anymore, nor has it been in a decade or at least. But I was in Mammoth and I was just getting tired. There were no nice girls up there, right? Everybody was up there to party and have a good time, guys and girls, everybody. Nobody wanted to be tied down. There were a few couples, but you could see them struggling with the fact that they really didn't want to be a couple, and not in that kind of place, not with that kind of carefree environment, that attitude with, well, let's just go and party every weekend, man. I mean, literally every weekend was at the bar, out at the hot tubs, at a house party. I mean, 3 a.m, climbing up drunker than a skunk, up the mountain to rip tower pads off, big cushions that go around the pads for skiers to bump into. We'd rip those things off and go sliding down tower pad. That's what they called it. Go sliding down the mountain at 3, 4 in, tower padding, right? I mean, it got old. It was old. It was juvenile. There are people in their 30s. We're in our 20s, and there are people in their 30s and 40s and 50s out partying with us. And I could see that I was just going to wind up one of these old schmucks up there getting drunk every weekend, getting into trouble, going to Alcoholics Anonymous because you got a DUI. I mean, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to be the same. I saw everybody else doing these things, and I learned my lesson just like the rest of my life, learned by other people's examples. I did not want to spend the rest of my life in Mammoth, partying every weekend, painting every day, dealing with the local, the local bullshit. I mean, it was a ski town. You got a lot of flakes. You get very people up there who were worth anything, and a whole lot of flakes coming through town. And I knew I wasn't going to find anyone up there who I could consider getting involved with, right? And I had to escape. By 98, 97, by 97, I had already found I'd spent a summer, working and living in a tent. It was painting and living in a tent with my friend's dog because he was out of town on vacation. So I spent 3 months living in a tent out on Mammoth Mountain Scenic Loop, the 203, I think is what it was called. So I saved a bunch of money. And then all my friends were going to come back into town from their trips out. Of course, me, the responsible one again. And so it was my responsibility to rent a house big enough for everyone when they got back. I needed a house for 3 or 4 people. So it meant 3 or 4 rooms. So I found this really nice 2-story, 3-bedroom house with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs, and then a big bedroom and bathroom downstairs, and a big living room, kitchen, and a little tiny yard, right? And it was a beautiful little house. I was still painting at the time, and it was my friend, it was Heather and Chris, and at some point Andrew was gonna be showing up. So there were 3 bedrooms. So I took the big room because I rented the house, so I got the choice. And on my ceiling, I painted it dark midnight blue, like black almost. And then I meticulously placed star constellations all over, and a glow in the dark moon and all this stuff. So that we turn off the lights, the whole ceiling lit up like the sky, right? It was fucking bitchin'. It was the very first time I had ever had my own room in a house with other people, right? Never as a child did I. Well, actually, I think in Temecula once, for a brief period, my sister moved into the laundry room, and I had my own room for a while. And then I traded place, and I lived in the laundry room, and she lived in the bed. So this is really the first time that I'd ever had my own room in my own house with other people. Now, Heather's room upstairs, the bedroom upstairs on the front of the house, I painted her ceiling sky blue and sponged in clouds and stuff. So she had a day room and I had a night room. I didn't do anything to Chris's room. Fucking let him get his own fucking decorations. But I decorated the girls' room and my room. And then after a while, I stopped working, and I went and I bought a big, giant 32-inch Toshiba color television, a 6-head VCR, a Sega Genesis, a PlayStation, and a Nintendo 64. I bought all 3 units, a bunch of games, an Iowa stereo unit with 5-disc changer, and I hooked everything into the TV and to the stereo and stuff so I could blast out whatever I was watching. I went and I bought a satellite and hung a satellite up outside so that, because we didn't have cable, so I could watch anything at any time except when it was cloudy and shitty weather, which happened a lot. And my plan was to spend the whole winter sitting in front of that fucking thing, right? And for the most part, I did, right up until the end of 97. Hold that thought while I go get some more coffee. It's ought to take a minute. It's ought to take a minute. But yeah, I don't want to keep talking because you may not hear me. Well, I do have some work today. I think I can. It usually doesn't start until 10 or 11. Checkout is until 11. So most days I don't even start work until 11:15 because I like to give them a few minutes to get the hell out of my house before I go into clean. But yeah, so I should be here till 8 or 9, depending on when my wife wakes up. Since we don't have to be there early, she might just sleep in, which is good for her, you know. All right. So Mammoth, the end of the 90s, it's the winter of 97, 98. And I am done with working on the mountain. I don't want to go back to working on the mountain. I'm pretty much burned out on painting and my boss. So we part ways. I'm not working for him anymore. I don't really want to work for the random place in town, a restaurant. I don't want to be a bar back. I don't want to work at the motel, cleaning rooms. I don't want to flip burgers. I don't want to stock shelves. There's no employment at the video store, which is where I would really want to work. And I had been dating off and on this girl named Michelle, of course, like my fourth or fifth freaking Michelle. And she was really a cool chick. If there's ever been anyone that I've dated who was just a really, real righteously cool person, Michelle was. I know her last name, but I won't say it. But she worked at the video store in Mammoth. She wore funny little pointy old lady granny glasses. She was about my age. She had dark hair, slightly buck-toothed, which just made her even more adorable. She had a really beautiful smile, those funny old granny glasses. She was really kitschy and quirky and weird, which is what really made me like her. And I would see her on a regular basis going to the video store. Well, and she just had this outrageously foxy body. She was built perfectly, right? Just a perfectly, everything was perfectly proportioned for me, anyway. For my after lots of wooing and cooing and courting, I finally got up the nerve to ask her out. Even to this day, back then I was an old school guy. It would take me forever to get up my nerve to ask a girl out, and then I would go through the whole thing of flowers and candy and everything that you would see in a freaking movie, because I had no clue. It was either that, or it was either treat them the way I learned in a Jimmy Stewart movie, or treat them the way that I learned in a freaking pornography, right? And of course, I did it both ways with her at some point. What's up, Sam? You need a blanket? Huh? Let me cover my dog here. There you go, Sam. There you go, buddy. There you go, boy. He likes to get covered up so he can sleep properly. All right. So yeah, I mean, it was neat. So I'm dating this girl, but we're just dating, and I still have no clue on what exactly I got. I just know that I'm probably never going to find the right person way up here in Party Town, right? I'm going to find some girl that wants to party, and then as soon as she's done with me, she's going to party her way off, or I'm going to party my way this way. And I was like, you know what? I need to get where there's more people, where there's more opportunity, where there's more fish in the sea, basically. That's good stuff. I hope I left enough for my wife. I've been gouging out the coffee big. And so it's like the end of 97, and my friend Andrew, another Andrew that I met in Mammoth, my one friend Andy moved up to Mammoth from Elsinore. My new friend Andrew had been living up there for a little while, and he had come from the same area. He had lived in Temecula and Carlsbad and stuff. Pardon me. And a friend of his, Dan, had started a company a while back, manufacturing plastic sign holders and displays and that kind of crap, right? And he wanted some help. He needed some employees down there to help him run the place, right? And he was getting very successful, enough so that he was going to move from a small building into a bigger building. And we had just recently gone down to see ELO2 in Oceanside at the pier, right? And so we drove down there. It was like, dude, I want to go see ELO2, and because the ELO was not touring, and he wanted to go down and get a ride down, right? So it was like, okay. So we do that. We go down, and I get us tickets to the show, and we go. We got my friend's dog with us because he still hasn't returned Indiana. So I've got my friend's dog, and I rent a motel room, Motel 6, because you can have dogs there. But of course, when we go to the ELO show, he barks the whole time, and I get in trouble from the manager because my dog barked the whole fucking time, right? Yeah, too fucking bad, So I leave Andy down there, and me and Frodo, my friend's dog, start our journey back to Northern California to Mammoth. Only halfway between Elsinore and Corona on the 15, my truck springs a leak in the radiator, right? Wow. So I've got this Jeep Comanche pickup with a blown radiator. So I get a tow over to my sister's house in Hemet or Sun City or something like that. And so reluctantly, she allows me to stay with her for a few days while I wait for my new radiator to show up and then get it installed so that I can get back home to Mammoth and back up to the painting, right? So I spent a couple of days there eating shake and bake chicken and watching my sister pretend like she never lived the kind of life that we lived. She's trying real hard to pretend that she's someone else, and I can just see it in her whole persona. So, I spent a couple of days with her trying to convince me that she's somebody else, which was really weird. But I got to meet her husband's parents, the in-laws, and they were both hearing impaired, who had adopted Chris, my wife's husband, and raised him without sound. So Chris was, could sign like he was drag racing. And I couldn't, but I got to meet his father and mother, beautiful people. I could only communicate with them through writing. But his father was a mechanic. He was a shade tree mechanic, so he knew a lot about what was going on. So he and I sat out in my brother-in-law's garage, writing back and forth to each other, just piles and piles of paper everywhere, talking about this and that, but mainly about fixing the Jeep, right? And so we did all these things that had to be done to get this Jeep put back together so that I could get back home, and we did. And I finally got out of there, and it was very, I don't know, it was weird. It was weird. The best part about it was getting to know my brother-in-law and his parents. Their daughter was really young at the time, so there wasn't really much back and forth there. I still, to this day, haven't had a whole lot of back and forth with her daughters. Yeah, sure, it's probably my fault, but at the same time, my sister's a nut job, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna subject myself to that. Of course, I'm a nut job too, so I'm not gonna subject her to me. There you go. Bong Hit. Yeah. So it's 97, and my one friend Andrew has moved down to, they're both Andy at this point. They haven't switched to Andrew. I switched to Michael a long time before that, but it still hasn't stuck. But so my one friend Andrew is down there living in Carlsbad. I'm back up in Mammoth. And he says, hey, my friend's company is moving from one building to another, and they need help. They need help getting this new building ready. They've got painting, drywall stuff, carpet laying, a bunch of stuff. And then afterwards, he, you could maybe stay on and work with the company. And it's like, it's got to be better than sitting up here in no man's land, floundering, trying to find something that's not here, right? So after having lived in this new house that we rented for only a few months, Andrew from Indiana came home, and he took over Chris's bedroom, and Chris moved down into my room. He grandfathered into my room because he was the next in line, so he got the big room. And I packed up what I could in my little pickup truck and moved back down to Southern California after being gone for a few years. And that was neat, because I was off on another adventure, and I was, I had more confidence. And I had a friend down there who had kind of laid the groundwork. So I got down there and immediately got to work fixing up the new warehouse. And it was literally within one complex. It was like from one building over here, over a couple of buildings into the back of this building here. So the moving was literally forklifting stuff onto a flatbed truck, hauling it over there, driving the forklift over, dumping stuff off, and filling the warehouse. So I spent a couple of weeks painting, helping the carpet guys lay carpet, doing drywall. They partitioned off the factory from the warehouse. At some point, they even engulfed another part of the warehouse over here, and we spilled in for the die cutting area. But after we got the building together, he asked me to build machines for him, bending machines. These are little tables where you sit, and it's got a pedal that activates a hot wire up and down into a slot in the table, and you set up guides on either end of this slotted wire contraption, so you can slide plastic in, bump it against a guide, and bring the hot wire down and melt that plastic enough to bend it, and then take it off and cool it. And then you've got a nice, even, smooth, straight fold in this clear plastic, and it doesn't whiten. If you try to fold it without heating it, the plastic gets white. If you've ever noticed that, you take a piece of PVC packaging and you take it and you fold it and you crimp it down real hard, it gets white. All right. So when you heat it up, it doesn't do that. So basically that's what we did. We heated up plastic, bent the plastic in configurations, and created sign holders, display holders, card holders, that kind of crap, brochure pockets, clear boxes, and clear things to slide in labels and price tags and things. All right, so that was pretty much it. So he had like 9 of these tables with a low voltage electrical box and a little dial to heat it up, and then the different thicknesses of piano wire between the conductors, and a spring carriage on a pedal activated spring carriage that would raise and lower this thing, and a nice smooth countertop surface where you could take 2-sided tape and lay down strips of plastic to bump your stuff into. And it was that simple, right? He wanted me to make 21 more of these machines, right? He says, here's a machine finished. All right. Here are the diagrams and the blueprints. And here are all of the pieces that I've had cut from a CNC. Okay. So we've got the countertop. We've got the sides of the table. All right. And they're all routed out for everything that needs to be added to them. So basically I have to build the carriage out of all of the parts, the aluminum bars and the springs and the wire and the tensioners and the whole works. I mean, I could sit here and draw a diagram of how those tables worked. And he said, here you go, you're hired. So it was like I went from one job, I went from being a painter to now being a machine builder, right? So now I'm building the machines for this guy to continue his company, right? And I was like, this is fucking awesome. So every day I would go in there and I would work on one machine. I would go in there and I would work on one machine for like the first week or something, getting everything perfect about this one machine. As soon as I got that one first machine done, and you could plug it in, turn it on, and use it, right, and set it up, and it was perfect. It was like, okay, that's what we need. And then I set up and I did, I think I did 6 machines at a time after that, 4 or 5 machines. I think I did 5 machines at a time after that, where I would come in one day and I would put together 5 tables, right? And then I would come in the next day and I would work on for a couple of days, I would work on building carriages, and I'd build all of the carriages. And then I'd come in and then I'd install all of the carriages and the foot pedals. And then I'd come in and I'd install all the electrical components for this. And I did this for, weeks and weeks, building these machines until I got 21 of his machines, 20 more machines built. And then after that, I knew everything about the machines, but I had also been learning about what the machines were for, how they were used, how to set up the tables to bend the different types of plastic products. So it became, I just kind of rolled from one into the other, right? Just like the painting into the building. Now from the building into the setting up of the machines. It's like, okay, now you know how the machine works. This is how we use the machine. And I learned how to use the machines. And then there's the matter of where the raw product comes from, that we use in the machines, the little pieces, the little squares of plastic that we bend into the shapes, right? Which led me to learn how to use the cutter. And the cutter is this huge, giant Heidelberg paper cutter with this big, giant steel blade. This big blade, you got to hold this big blade like this. It comes sharpened inside of a wooden frame, right, so that nobody can hurt themselves on it. And then you unbolt it from this wooden frame, slide it into the table, you know, and up onto the machine. This knife is just, it's crazy. I got a dull knife. Change the knife. So I got to learn the Heidelberg press paper cutter, and it would doosh, doosh, and it was programmable. So I got to learn how to program it, how to add programs, how to write your own program. It was neat because you would punch in a size and it would optimize the size sheet by the size piece that you want. It would give you, okay, cut it this way and then turn it, and then cut it this way and then turn it, cut it this way. And you could program all that in so that you get a little bit on the edges to cut off to make into the perfect squares that you needed. The squares that you sent off to the die cutter did not have to be perfectly squared because they were going to get stamped out of the middle of that piece. And that was a whole nother thing that I learned dealing with Sam, the die cutter guy. And eventually we got our own die cutter, big, giant, and it would feed in plastic and take out plastic, you know, and then the thing would come down and sandwich it together and stamp it. And the die is just a big piece of plywood with these metal knives put onto it in the shape of the finished plastic that you want, right? Really cool fucking job. I'm glad I didn't stay in the job because I would have, you know, I got burned out. I'm not a 20-year man. I'm not a retired from this job kind of guy. Get in, have some fun, learn something new, and then I gotta go. That's who I am. But this job was just a lot of fun. I got to use my chops in so many different ways. Eventually becoming supervisor and you know, director of productions and that kind of whatever fancy titles they wanted to give me. But I mean, I just kept going around, and I was like, all right, now I need to learn this. Okay, now I need to learn this and learn this and learn this and learn this. By the end, by the time I left there, I could have run the whole fucking show, you know. So much so that a couple of years later, I went back into plastics and went to work for their competitor, who the owner of the original, the one that I worked for, he had started there and then created his own company, you know. So I went back and went and worked for his competitor because that's where my wife had gone to work. Yeah, so 97, 98, 98, I go to work, and now I'm building machines at the plastics manufacturing place. And when we get there, we go over to the factory to see all of the stuff that I'm going to have to move to the next factory. And I show up with my friend, and I girl just laughing out loud, just having a ball. And I turned to my friend and I said, man, I could marry a girl with a laugh like that. I'd be happy for the rest of my life. And a sight unseen, I had no idea who this girl was. Well, I learned who that girl was and spent months working with that girl. And at some point, fell in love with that girl and started dating that girl. And then after 8 months of dating, asked her to marry me, and we got married, and we've been married ever since. We got married at the end of 1999, and it's early 2024, right? So we've been married 24 years. Our next anniversary, we will be 25 years married. There we go. And we got a kid in college. So there you go. And all because I left Mammoth. I could not find a life in Mammoth, and I had to find a life elsewhere. And then that life kept traveling and changing, but I had somebody to go with me now. We got pregnant as soon as we got married, and then got into a car accident, and then that didn't work. And so we waited a few years, floundered around, and then finally had our daughter. Yay! Finally worked. And then we kind of bounced around Southern California, Northern Nevada, back down to Southern California, kind of looking for our place. Who'd have thunk that it would be out here in the California high desert? I mean, I literally, came out in 2009, back from Northern Nevada. We came back because there was just no work out there. In 2008, the economy tanked. Work was going, we had moved up there to help my friend Chris run his painting company. And it was great for a couple of years. And then it just floundered, right? I was doing handyman stuff half days. And the weather was horrible. So we moved back down here. I bounced around doing contractor handyman work. And then I found a really good job out in Palm Springs. But that meant that once again, we'd have to relocate. And my daughter had already gone to 3 schools, right? In her first year, first grade. So it was like, you know what? We got, wherever we go, we're staying, period. So we moved out, put her in a school. She finished first grade in that school. And then she stayed in that school until the 6th grade. Then we moved her to junior high. She stayed there the whole time in junior high. She went to one high school. Now she's at one college. She's now just got accepted to a university. So yeah, we're permanent residents out here until she decides otherwise, or until we just decide, you know what, let's move on. But things have been good to us out here, and we're a far distance from that, that young couple that we were back in 1998, 1999, right? And yeah. Things are all the better, Life isn't perfect, but it's perfectly life. It's just things happen, and you just got to roll with it. And, being out here, 7 a.m., March 11, 2024, out here in the high desert, being out here, I've always been in like a vacation town. It seems like everywhere I go, I'm in some little small vacation town with a main highway running through it or running right next to it. Mammoth, Elsinore, freaking Tempe, out here, it's always some little touristy place, Genoa, Nevada. That was a neat place. That was one of those places that we worked, lived. Pardon me. Our daughter, went to kindergarten there, and then her first shot at first grade was there. And then during the winter of 2008, it was, or was it 2009? I was somewhere in there. We had to leave. The economy sucked, and it was dead winter and everything was frozen. So we picked up and left reluctantly and went back down to Southern California and enrolled my daughter in a school there. She was there for not long, and they decided that she had to go to another school that was in need of students, and it was only like a few blocks, literally less than a mile away. So she started at one school, and then she had to go to another school, and then at some point she got to go back to the first school, and then that made 3 schools, right? And it was like, no, we need to find a spot where she's. I had done that. I mean, every school year, 2, 3, 4 schools in a year, out of necessity, out of being chased all over the country and all over Southern California. We had no choice but to pick up and move on occasion, and it was, multiple occasions a year. For there was a brief period where we spent, like 2 or 3 years in one spot. But for the most part, it was less than a year in each place. And then we'd be moving on, sometimes months in a spot or weeks. We were sometimes in so many places, I don't even remember the in-between places because they were so quick. And I couldn't see my daughter doing that. I couldn't see her living that life. She would have no academic career at all. So I was like, okay, we got to, no matter what we do, we got to stay. Ooh, stay boy. So we find a place out here in living in a fifth wheel on some property in exchange for caretaking, which is a really good deal. So I'm working my wife's caretaking, and our daughter is going to school locally, and taking the bus down the road, which was perfect. So we're going to stay in this little area, this little valley here where the school is, within distance, close enough to the school so she could stay in this school. Regardless if I got to dig ditches or panhandle, right? This is how it's going to be. And, of course, it was only within a couple of years that I severely injured my neck and back at this job that I was ready to devote myself to fully so that she could stay in school. All of a sudden, I've got doctor's visits and rehabilitation and pain pills and pain pills and pain pills. So after a while, I just find myself eating a handful of pills and crawling into bed every day, and that was just horrible. So after, a couple of years of trying to figure out what to do physically with my neck and my back, I decided to go to college because they can't do anything for me. I've settled out with the workman's compensation deal and get what little money is left and use that to get a little Geo Metro and to start going to school out at our local college where my daughter goes to now. So I'm driving like 30, 40 minutes from where we're living down in this little valley up here into the basin to go to this school here. So that's why I get this little Geo Metro, little 3-cylinder, great on gas, and do that for a little while. And, I didn't want my daughter to see me sitting at home doing nothing and popping pills and sleeping all day, screaming about pain. And there were a few years of that where I had to come to terms with my constant chronic pain, constantly, right? It would grate on my nerves so bad that I would be trying to do something, and if I couldn't do it, I would just go into a rage and scream bloody murder and just want to beat things up and destroy shit, right? I went through a lot of anger issues because of the pain. Not to mention my own depression and, fucked up mental issues I have, So it wasn't until just a few years ago that I used microdosing mushrooms to rewrite my brain chemistry so I didn't wig out all the time. And I could just go like just a little while ago, the other day, I bumped my head and, it was just going into a cabinet here, and I went in for something, and I came out and I bumped my head. Now, a few years ago, I would have just screamed, and it was a silly little bump on the head. Didn't do anything. Didn't raise a bump. Didn't do anything. But that I would have thrown things, have been pissed off. I probably would have done more damage. Or if somebody had cut me off in traffic, I'd chase them down and flip them off and try to run them off the road or something, or pull them over so we could have words or fisticuffs or something, right? And not anymore. I mean, every once in a while, it's like I get mad, but it goes away pretty damn quick. I try not to let shit stay with me anymore. But yeah, I got to where I just wanted to rehabilitate. I just wanted to get back out into the world. I was tired of sitting around, not doing anything, feeling sorry for myself. And I did 2 whole full years, full time as a student, and 1 whole full summer, full time, which meant 2 classes. A whole 6 weeks or so of summer, 2 classes a day for 5 days a week, or 4 or 5 days. Yes, 5 days a week. 1 in the afternoon and 1 in the evening, with a little couple-hour break in between where I could sit and have dinner in my car at the library or something. And the library would close before so I'd go hang out at the library, and then it's summertime, so even at 6 o'clock, it's miserably hot between 5 and 6 o'clock until I go into my other class. Sitting in the car, sweating. Even in the shade, it was miserable. So I would just sit and, get burned out watching old movies and shit on YouTube. But I did that for 2.5 years, went to the college, just because I just had to get out and do something. And I wanted to better myself, and I wanted to drag that book bag around and, my art bags and art supplies and stuff. And I did it. It worked, So much so that when I was just done there and I had reached my limit, it was like, okay, now I got to take math and history and more science. It's like, nah, I'm not here for that. I'm not here to get a degree. I still wouldn't even go back and try to go after a degree. It's not for me. Taking the classes that I wanted to take: photography, drawing, painting, life drawing, death and dying. I mean, a bunch of Microsoft 10, a bunch of different stuff that I really, really was into learning, so much so that I would just say, no, I'm not going to take that class. Well, you need it to graduate. Yeah, I know. I'll take it eventually, knowing full well that I was not going to eventually take it. I walked into a math class, and before break, I knew that I was not going to be able to handle any of this. I knew nothing about what the guy was talking about. I'm not going to give you guys any help. I'm just going to throw the problems up on the board. And if you're here, you should know how to do what you're supposed to do. Don't come crying to me if you can't figure it out. And it was like, well, boo-hoo for me, because that's all I got. I don't know what the hell's going on. I got into that. I matriculated into that. I took a test, and they said, wow, you did pretty good in math. You're up into this. I was like, really? I did a lot of guesswork. And I can't guess maybe on a test, but I can't guesswork my way through a class and get away with it. Eventually, the professor's going to find out that I'm a schmuck, right? Mathematically speaking. So I didn't go back after break. Break time came for that first class, and I just packed up my shit and left. I dropped that class and took on another class. I don't even remember what I took. I wanted to stay full time. I was taking 4 classes a semester for 4 semesters, And then I took a summer for 2 classes for the whole semester, mainly for financial aid reasons, is why I took so many classes. Um, if you're full-time, you get more financial aid, more grants. I didn't take any loans. I wasn't there to rack up a bill. And I had already been through the trade school deal where you can't make it on grants alone. You have to borrow money, right? And I had already, it took me years to get past all of that debt that I had acquired in the early 90s doing the trade schools in Arizona. So I didn't want to go there again. And I learned enough going to college here and trade schools back in the 90s. And when I had gone to college in 2003, trying to do this, where I spent a year getting not so good grade, I learned enough during those 3 school periods that when it came time for my daughter to go to college, I made sure that she knew never to take a loan. That's why we make sure that she knows you stay at home, right? If you're going to go to school until you're 30 years old or 40 years old, if you can and want to stay at home, you need to stay at home. All right. I've got no problem having a multi-generational household. I have no problem with my daughter's significant other moving into the household or sharing a piece of property or a house or multiple houses with my daughter and her significant other, whoever that may turn out to be. You know, I got no problem with that, because I believe in community, and familial responsibility, something that I never really got as a kid. So it's important for me to be able to have that now and show my daughter that it's one of the most important things in family is to take care of each other, So, yeah, I mean, I wear many hats, I'm dad, but I'm also the cook. I'm a taxi driver. I'm, the concert guy, laundry dude. Uh, I'm the guy that helps with the weird homework projects because I think outside the box, you know. And yeah, so now my daughter's at this school, and I finished, what I needed from that school, and then I moved on. I was able to move from that into what happened was I had a small collection of tools, right? Old hand tools, no power tools. My power tools that I had big long cords on them, and they were really old and heavy, right? So I didn't really have any really good selection of tools, right? But I had a lot of know-how. So I was able to pick up a job here and a job there, doing a little bit of handyman work, fix this, fix that. And then I started answering some Craigslist ads. I need this fixed. I need some drywall patches done, or I need to put in some baseboard in this room, or I need something painted. And I would answer these ads, and I would go in and I would try to bid the job. If I couldn't talk them into just paying me hourly, I would just bid the job and usually overbid. And so I felt really uncomfortable about bidding jobs. Usually I would just say, look, pay me this much an hour. And, and you know, and I won't go over X amount of hours. And if I do, hey, it's on me. And I did that a lot, learning and trying to build up a client base. And because I was so eager to work and okay with, working 8 hours and only charging them for 6 or something, they were really into that. And I would get a lot of jobs. And I remember going to some place answering an ad for something and going and meeting these guys who needed a little bit of work done. And I worked for and they gave my phone number to somebody else, who gave my phone number to somebody else, and it started this chain reaction. Well, these first guys, they had just gotten done with their housekeeper, right? And they needed somebody to come by and help clean house. I was like, okay, this is my wife here. She cleans house. So we met these guys, and she started cleaning house for them, once a week, for a few bucks. Mainly it was because, well, sure, we needed the money, but we needed something to do. We needed a reason to be here in this area, and we needed to meet people and network. And so I took on another job and another job, and every time I'd get a job, I'd buy a new little piece of equipment, a tool here and a tool there. And then I got this one job. I was trying to find some steady employment at this point. I was doing work here, work there, and I kept looking out for a steady gig that was gonna, pay the bills. So I was looking in Palm Springs, and I found this little spa. It only had like 20 or 30 rooms. It was a little tiny little place with a pool and a kitchen and stuff. And these guys had just bought it, and they wanted to fix it up. So there was a little bit of painting. There was some stucco repair, painting doors and fixing this and that and this and that. I was just getting in there and getting into kind of the groove of this place. And I did a whole bunch of work and gave them this huge bill, and they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, it was right around the holidays, and all of the stuff at Home Depot and Lowe's was on sale. All the power tools and things were going on sale for the holidays. So it was like, okay, I really need to get some power tools, some battery operated stuff. I need a whole set of DeWalt's, basically. And I found this 10-piece set with a couple of bags and all of these neat things, the vacuum and the blower and the radio, along with all the other tools that I need. And it was like, yeah, I want that. And the price had come way down. And I took the money from these guys and threw it in the bank and immediately ordered this stuff, and then had to drive down and pick it up. And came home from wherever I had to go to Lowe's to pick up my 2 bags of DeWalt tools, and immediately took them and started working on some remodeling jobs. I bounced around doing a couple of worked for a cabinet company, doing some driving and installing and stuff. But my main thing was finding people who needed work done and then just go work, and I did a lot of that. And then I was right in the middle I had two really good remodel jobs going on. I was doing a floor in one place and finishing off a full kitchen remodel in a mobile home down in Palm Springs. And it was just coming out great. I had subcontracted somebody to do the floor, all the tile work, and he did it. And because the guy, the owner, had bought the tile, he bought crappy tile that had a really nice bevel, a high bevel on it, a high center on these tiles. So no matter how you did these tiles, you couldn't get anything to line up, and you were constantly stubbing your toes on these tiles. He got pissed off. And man, my friend told you
that none of these tiles were worth the fucking shit, and that you wanted him to install these tiles, and he told you that nothing was going to line up, that this was going to happen, this uneven shit was going to happen, right? And literally, I said, you know what? Screw it. Look, he'll eat the bill for the labor. You'll go out and you'll buy new fucking tile, and I will eat having to pull up all of this and repair it so that we could put down new stuff, right? And that's how we fixed that. You know, my friend came back, he redid the floor. It was perfect after my friend had gone out and bought the tile that, you know, my friend told him to buy, you know, and I stripped that fucking shit down, back down to the what do you call it on the floor that I put down there? That hardy board, hardy backer. So, yeah, there you go. But I was right. I was finishing up. I just had to hang cabinets, right? I had already done the electrical, the plumbing, it was mobile home, so I covered the walls in 3/8 plywood instead of that paneling, and then put new support studs in the wall so those cabinets could hang safely. I did everything to code and plus. I'm not a contractor by any means, but I know how to do shit because I've been around it since I was 15, right? And if I don't know, the most important thing is to find out. So I got to do this. Well, I know how to do that. Yeah, but do you know this? No, I don't know that. We'll find out about that then. And I would just, you know, YouTube. I just watch YouTube videos, you know, or go to, my favorite thing was to go to Home Depot and stand at their book section back then and go through their how-to books. And I would just sit and sometimes I'd take a picture of a page, or I would sit in there with my notebook and I would write down things, or I would just thumb through and go, that's how you do that, you know? And so, you know, I learned hands-on, and I used logic. You know, if you don't use logic, you ain't doing shit logically, right? Man, I missed that coffee already. So, yeah, I was right in the middle of these two jobs when I got my second neck injury. Some jerk pulled right out in front of me when I was in my Geo Metro, and he's in this big Toyota son of a bitch. And he just destroys the front end of my Geo Metro. It was a beautiful car. I took months looking for this car, drove all the way out to Knott's Berry Farm to find this particular car. You know, new paint, just one owner, well, a father and then his son. So it was a one family car. It was in excellent condition. And I drove it for a couple of years, and then this piece of garbage pulled out in front of me and they just destroyed my front end. It was worthless. And it also destroyed my neck again. So I had to hire help to finish the cabinets, just to hang all of these cabinets that he bought from Home Depot. I had to wait weeks before I could go back to work because I was just destroyed, which meant I had to put customers on hold. The guys who had hired me at the spa down in Palm Springs had sold their spa because they got a really good price for it and wanted me to now work on their vacation rental up here by the park in Joshua Tree. So it was like, okay, this is different, but now I got one place to work on, and it's close by. And that was a blessing in disguise at that point, because they also, when they started it up as a vacation rental, they wanted me to take care of it, come by and clean it when it needed to be cleaned, which means putting it on my schedule, go by and clean this house on this day at this time, right? I was like, okay, so I can get into this. Cleaning isn't so difficult, right? It's not so hard. I can do cleaning. I've been, you know, clean somebody. I can't clean my own house, but I can clean somebody else's house. So with the help of my wife, I get into the cleaning of this vacation rental, and she starts to network and find friends and stuff who need help cleaning, and then people who get places ready and do deep cleaning for vacation rentals, and then people who actually clean vacation rentals regularly. And then I, at some point, pass over this house cleaning to her, and I slowly rehabilitate my way back into handyman work. Eventually buy another vehicle once everything gets settled up, and I buy a retired postal minivan, and it's got the cage in the back. It's got 2 seats up front, a TV monitor in the center for the backup screen, the backup camera, and then a cage, and then cages on the back windows, right? Because it's a postal, it's got to be protected. It's got to protect the mail. So I love this vehicle because of the cage, right? All of my tools are now protected. I can load this thing up with this huge collection of tools that I've started to gather, right? Saws and sawhorses and work tables and benches, and just a neat assortment of tools, anywhere from painting to carpentry to electrical plumbing, right? I'm just like the handyman guy. The cage, wire cage in the back is neat because I can use hooks and hang things all the way around on the inside. I put shelves in the back below the cage, so now I've got wire shelves to hang, to put tools and boxes and bags, and it's a really neat van. Of course, I bought it with my eyes closed and my heart open, so I wound up just buying a lemon. The transmission never worked right on it, which, par for the course. I've never been one for picking out a good vehicle. Just horrible luck. But at the van that I have now. So I drive this, and I do handyman stuff. And then at some point, my wife says, look, this other guy that we just did some deep cleaning for, he wants somebody as a regular cleaner for his house here, and he's got another house up the street that he's finishing up, and he's going to need someone to clean that one too, and would we be interested? It's like, well, she's like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I got handyman work, and I guess I could help on occasion when you get busy, right? But you'll have to be responsible for this because I've got my handyman stuff to worry about. So it's like, okay. And after a while, I'm starting to spend more and more time going to help her clean, right? And wow. And it's not that difficult. At first it's like, oh my God, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is, I gotta clean. And I'm running around the house trying to clean up. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to clean like she does. I'm not trying to clean like I would do something, like my assembly line, bending tables, right? Let's line up 6 and do them. Let's all do them all the same way every time, right? There was no master plan in my cleaning of a house. And then I decided, all right, I got to do things my way. And so I figured out a routine on how to do every house the same way every time. So whether I was by myself, usually, or helping my wife on occasion, there was a big chunk of time where I was in a house cleaning by myself, and I had to have things set up so that I could just go into a house and start at one end, and like a clock, I could just tick myself around, the house, hitting off everything along the way until I was done. And then I knew that I didn't have to look backwards, because if I had already been there, it was finished. I didn't run around the house, try to do this and this and this and that, which works for some people, works for my wife. It don't work for me. So once I figured out a routine, I was able to go into every house and use that same formula to do every house. All right. So then the cleaning of the houses became so easy that it was easier to go clean house than it was to go spend a half a day or a day doing handyman stuff, sinking fence posts, putting a new door or a window on somebody's house, installing an air conditioner, a new hanging light, just, weird oddball shit. it became a lot of legwork and a lot of working outdoors, trips back and forth to Home Depot. Ah, crap, I don't have that. I got to go get that, and it became tiresome. It became a drag to get up and know that I got to go deal with this customer, and they're going to want me to do more than they want me to do, than they're telling me, and I'm going to have to go to Home Depot. I'm going to run into some kind of snag, and oh my God, it's going to be 110 today, and it was, and there's no shade, and I just got tired of it. It was so much easier to, enter into an air conditioned house, clean for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and then go. And then it got so easy and so routine that by myself, I could go into a house and clean it in 2 hours, right? Which means if I got my wife with me, in 1 hour, we can clean a house, because that's 2 hours between the two of us, right? Which, well, if we can do that, then we can do 2 houses in one day. Well, then we figured out, we can do 3 houses in one day. The other day, Saturday, we did 4 houses in 5 hours, right? Five or 6 hours, we did 4 houses. Boom, 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 boom. An hour, 15, 20 minutes per house. Boom, get to the next house. She'd stay to finish and I'd go to the next one, or I'd stay to finish and she'd go to the next one. And then we just kind of keep moving around until, hey, what do you know? We're done. It was so easy on Saturday. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was easy, right? It plumb tuckered me out that I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't remember if I had to do anything, but it allowed me the ability to sit in this chair and edit a bunch of video. So look for my new concert footage videos. I'm really having fun with those. I'm going to upload another one after the show. I got to go to work today. So, yeah. Right now, I've got a shed full of tools. I've since sold that minivan, that lemon of a minivan with the postal carrier cage in the back. And I purchased a real van. Of course, I bought another lemon. So it's constantly giving me grief. I love it to death. I'll probably drive it till I die. Hopefully I'll be able to drive it more. But I've given up on the handyman stuff. Now the handyman stuff I do is for the handful of houses that we caretake for. I go there, I clean. If something needs to be fixed, I'm able to fix it without much thought, and usually with very little tools. If I know ahead of time, I can throw some tools into the car. Usually I got to go there and MacGyver it until I show up next time to actually fix it. But I would rather, scrub 4 or 6 toilets a day than go out and dig fence holes with a post hole digger, in the heat. And I was doing pretty good. I think I was doing like handyman work. I was doing $25 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. And that's, most of the other handymen out here, the minimum they were doing were like $60-65 an hour. The guys who would subcontract to me would be making $40 an hour after they paid me, and they weren't doing anything but hiring me, right? So yeah, I mean, and for me, I was just a lowly bum working under the table, working side jobs, trying to fucking survive. Paying my, what is it, I-99 or whatever, those 1099 crap. But I mean, I just got to the point where it was, it's easier to on the body, it's easier on the mind, it's easier on the chronic pain, it's easier on the taxes, because I only got a handful of people that I've got to deal with. I don't have like 100 customers that year that I got to fucking write out receipts for and keep track of and have a whole bank account devoted to. I mean, no. Yeah. Totally, man. The smoke zone. Yep. So now I enjoy a life of scrubbing toilets, showers, cleaning bathrooms, cleaning kitchens, cleaning floors, fixing little things, changing light bulbs, door latches and that kind of shit. On occasion, I'll get to paint, which I really enjoy. The last time I painted one house, the entire house on the inside. That one hurt. Not as much as it hurt to paint the main part of the another house. I did the ceiling. I just did the ceiling in one house because the whole interior was the same color, and I got sick of looking at it. It's like, okay, well, if we're gonna paint this house, let's start with the ceiling. Let's paint the ceiling white. Give us a nice white, so that this place has some contrast. And then at some point we can paint the walls. But that last ceiling that I painted just destroyed my neck. Looking up, doing this, right? And doing this. Something my doctor says I'm never supposed to do again. On occasion, I'll have no choice and I'll have to do it because I got to pay the bills. And for, a couple of my customers, yeah, cleaning house, I charge them for every single little thing that we do, every amount of time that we're there. And that's just because sometimes those people, that's what they get. That's what they deserve. That they treat you a certain way, or you treat them a certain way. And there are other people that that I work with, that I don't tell them everything that I do because I know that they're going to pay way too much, and I can't have that on my conscience. I can't have that on my karma. I can't have that on my soul where, I'm like, hey, I can get more money out of this guy. Hey, I did this. Give me $100. I can't do that. Especially to people who are so ultra fucking cool that, you got to find ways to repay their kindness, and one of the things that I do with a few of our customers is I'll go over there and take care of shit, fix things, and just not tell them. Because I know if I happen to mention, oh yeah, I fixed that, cha-ching, and it's like, oh, you didn't need to do that, and you didn't need to pay that much, I keep my life low key so that I don't require a lot of financial output. So therefore, I don't require a lot of financial input, right? My finances, of course, the woman that she takes care of all of the big stuff, but I just make sure that our finances do this, and we keep everything low key. So when things are good, things are great. When things are bad, things are still good because we're not, it's like, oh my God, how are we going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to pay the 3 car payments? How are we going to do this and that? And remember, we got a vacation coming up, and we've got to go to Cancun. It's like, we don't do that kind of shit. I mean, that's for, those people who believe everything they're sold on in the media, that you have to go to that game, you have to go to that, that show, you got to do this, you got to have that, you got to look better than everybody else, you got to drive a newer car and the better model, even if it requires you to, to work overtime and get that extra job, what kind of a life is that? You've got all these things that you bought that you can enjoy, and you can never enjoy them because you're always working, right? And I bought for a pittance, and I work so little that I can actually enjoy it. And it means more to me than all of that expensive stuff that everybody else has got, they have in their houses, and they never get to enjoy. Yeah. So I guess it's just on how you live and how you want your life. I'm going to run to the little boys' room right now real quick, so I'm going to mute this thing. All right, so I'll be back in a flash. Hey, now I'm back. I'm back, baby. All right. So let's see. Where was I? I believe I was right here. Yeah. Now every day, it's just checking the calendar to see if there's a place to clean. That's pretty much it. Um, the money's not like wonderful, uh, but it's great that it it can come in waves that is wonderful, uh, which is pretty cool. I mean, for the most part, I don't do much at all, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm doing a house this day, and then 3 houses that day, and then 4 houses this day, and then usually around the weekend, it picks up, and I'm pretty busy, and then it fades off. To is kind of a straggler day. A lot of people's extended, so it's a Monday, and I think we're cleaning like 3 places, so that's pretty cool. Um, the important thing is to stay busy and pay the bills, but to have some kind of routine. Now, cleaning houses is no routine at all. The only routine is when I get to a house, and then it becomes routine. Waiting for work, uh, expecting work to come along, um, dealing with the day-to-day stuff. I mean, that's crazy. But I like the fact that, you know, it's always unpredictable. It's not always cleaning. While they're cleaning every single house, I attack the same way every time, because I can go in and, you know, 10 minutes in this bathroom, 10 minutes in this bathroom, 20 minutes in the kitchen. I'm doing floors, and my wife's finishing up with the beds and the laundry, right? And the little things, the little touches that she hits. And then sometimes she'll be in the kitchen doing dishes while I'm doing bathrooms, so that when I get to the kitchen, I've just got the routine, you know. Um, this show here actually gives me a daily routine. It's only 4 days a week, but then that it also allows me enough building up of routine that over the weekend I can kind of stay in that routine and work on other elements of this channel, i.e., the morning show, the live show, the documentaries, the little commercial things, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you got to have something going on. I don't like too much going on. I don't require a whole lot from the world. Mainly, I just want to kind of be left to my own devices and be that responsible family guy in as limited capacity as possible as far as the rest of the world is concerned. Now, here I'm 100%. When I go out there, it's like, you might be able to engage me 10, 20%, you know, with society, with the world as a whole, right? Now, if I go out into the world and I engage you individually, now I may get more out of that, you know, than I will a week of sitting at home doing nothing or just doing this, right? Like when we went to the observatory out in Santa Ana to see Lucas Nelson, right? So we got there early. We got the parking, the premium parking. We got the fast pass, the fast lane, so we could get in early, find a good spot because it was standing room only and general admission, and it wasn't a whole lot of room. So we found a little spot up against a pony wall in front of us, so we got a place to set our drinks and kind of lean on. And we were kind of along an aisle with a little pony wall corner and a little trash can. So we were going to move the trash can when it got dark. Short, you know, long story short, we wound up meeting a lady and her 30-year-old daughter with Downs, who were just trying to enjoy the show. Her daughter had to wear headphones because of the loudness. But any other person would have been, you know, yeah, sure, well, do whatever you want, just don't bring me down and don't interrupt my good time, right? And I was like, you know what, my good time is your good time. You know, you want to get rid of that trash can, put your daughter here in this little pony wall corner area where she's safe. If you need to leave, go somewhere. I'm here, my friend's here, this lady here that we just met, you know, is right here. And of course this woman with Downs, whose face was like, you know, really shy and scared when she first showed up, was smiling at me and giving me shoulder bumps, and enjoying the show with me so much so that when they both left, she wanted to give me a fist bump, you know. So that make me want to go out into the world. I won't engage the world 100% still, right? That's not what I do. But the people who I do engage will get 100% of me. Let's just say that, right? And you take that however you want to take it to mean, but you know, that little girl, that 30-year-old girl, you know, her mother said that they were out here at Pioneer Town, Pappy and Harriet's, to see Lucas Nelson the time that I was there. And I actually, when she told me that they were sitting on the benches off to the side of the show and she had her headphones on, I had gone over to the same spot to sit and relax my back before standing right up front again. And when she mentioned that she was there and that's where she sat, I actually remembered seeing them there and made the connection of seeing her daughter sitting there at that table, right? And she probably remembered it and didn't even remember how she remembered it, right? One of those weird things. But we didn't know that we had met each other before until I remember, wow, I remember seeing you there. Because I sat right there, over in the disabled area. And that was pretty cool. So there was another moment, another shared moment we didn't even know we shared, right? So I try to stay away from what the media and society requires of me, what bureaucracy and the government require of me. I try to worry about what my soul and my karma requires of me. That's it. You do that, and you're good to go. You got nothing on you after that. It was cool. My friend drove to Santa Ana, so I just got to get ripped. I rolled a couple of big doobies for the show, and at some point right before the show started, I realized, before the main show started, my friend realized there was a smoking area out back of this place, and then he went out there and had a cigarette. He came back in, and he didn't have the beers he went out for, but he came back in smelling like tobacco. I said, "Hey, where are you at?" And he said, "I was a smoking area." I said, "I'll be back in a minute." So a lot of people smoking out there, and I was just a dust, trail of dust. So I went out there and I sparked up this fucking fat bomber joint and puffed half of it to my head because everybody else had their own shit going on. And, post-COVID, nobody wants to touch anybody else's shit, right? But the lady who we were standing with on our right was my age, had graduated the same year I did, which of course meant that she was a year younger than me. She was like, "What's going on, man? Anybody got anything?" And so, of course, when my friend said there was a smoking area, I didn't think twice. I just ran. I should have thought to take her with me because then I would have had somebody to smoke with. But I get back and it was like, I see her and I was like, "Oh shit." I said, "Hey, I just set a half a joint out on this big barrel out there, right? So go out and grab this half a joint and light it up, smoke it." So she goes out there. A couple of minutes later, she comes back and she says, "I don't have a lighter," right? So I hand her some matches and she goes back out there. My friend's like, "Are you kidding me? There's like a million people out there with lighters. It's a smoking area." And of course, he doesn't, think like us old people do. He's 10 years younger than me, which isn't a huge difference. But I mean, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but like you're smoking a joint and you're not going to go ask somebody for a light for a joint, right? Because we're thinking old school, right? You got to do it on the cuff, man. Do it on the slide, right? Even though I stood out there in the very center of the smoking area, just puffing on this thing. She was the opposite. She was like, "Man, how am I going to do this and not let anybody see?" And I gave her a book of matches, my Circle K match book, right? So that was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. But I'll be happy to go out into public with encounters like that. I can do that. I can totally do that. Okay, it's time to close this blind because we know the sun is up. The sun has arisen. And if I don't destroy the blind here, it'll come down properly. Anybody notice the star is gone? My wife removed the Christmas star that was in the window forever. This being March, it's about time, right? I think that was the last of the Christmas decorations to go. How many people do you guys still have Christmas decorations in the house? Anybody? It's early March, mid-March, right? Yeah. Yeah. Going out in the world. In the world, right? Oh, I got to remember to keep notes so I can add to my description of what today's show is about, so that people who go through the playlist can get an idea of what's really going on each episode. Because I will talk about any number of things at any given time. Usually, this is the end of my third hour. Usually, at the end of my third hour, I start to get pretty belligerent on ranting and raving and venting about something that pisses off this crazy old weird bearded guy, but not today. I'm feeling pretty good. I came off a weekend of a lot of toilet scrubbing and a lot of video editing. I didn't get to play much guitar, which is kind of a bummer. I cleaned my room here. I don't know if you can tell, but I cleaned and dusted and tidied up and vacuumed and all that stuff that I like to do at least once a week. And I kind of redecorated here a little bit. I've got my coffee table here where the microphone is in front of me. And I put this table back to the left of me, and I brought in my other chair. So I'm kind of set up here for a two-person interview type thing. But mainly it's just me in here. But when I'm not doing my show, my wife can come and sit in here, and we can watch some TV or listen to some music or something, or just talk. Because, talk. I need to get back into reading. Let me see if I got something weird going on over here. Hello? Testing. I don't know. My sound sounds pretty clear. Pretty dang clear. I guess the sound I'm hearing is that heater bouncing off of the wall back here. But so that slight that you hear is just a little space heater. I usually got one on over here, but I got my camera, so I don't want to have a space heater under my camera. So yeah, this is hour 4. We're starting hour 4. We just finished hour 3. Monday morning, 8 a.m., March 11th, 2024. Last week I saw Lucas Nelson again. This is from 2023, when we saw Lucas Nelson out here. The sound of fresh paint, right? I don't wear this one too much, so it still sounds pretty new. I'm going to have to wear my other Lucas Nelson shirt because it's a doozy. It is. It's a really nice cream color with the palm trees and the hammock. And it's a great one. It's a great one. I wish I had gotten a Lily Miola shirt, but I just couldn't afford to do both. I did get a beer cozy and a keychain from Lucas Nelson as well, but that's just because I'm such a fanatic. I really am. I mean, I don't like to admit it, but I am kind of fanatical when it comes to my fan crushes, right? I was never like that before. I mean, I liked music and I liked going to see artists, and I'd kill to go to a concert, but it never dawned on me that I'd want to go meet any of the artists or go backstage or hang out with anybody for any amount of time. Back in the late 90s, back to Mammoth again, my friend Andy worked at, back then he was Andy. He worked at a, actually, I think he was transitioning to Andrew, right? Trying on things like Drew, right? I think he did the symbol for and then Drew for a little while. But yeah, so he worked at this place called La Sierra's Bar and Grill, and it was a restaurant up top, and downstairs it was built on a little hill, right? The Mammoth main road going here, and it was built on this little hill so that up top at street level was the restaurant, and then down here was a lower parking level dirt lot with the bottom part of the building where there was storage, but mainly there was a bar, a big bar with a stage and pool table, and it was really neat. A staircase that went up into the restaurant, and then up to the main street level. But it was really neat, and he worked there as the bartender, and then the bar manager, and then the guy responsible for hiring the bands. And at one point, he would be hiring bands and then put them up in. They had these little old, like motel room, little tiny apartment type things. It was just a little room with a bathroom, little room with a bathroom, little room with a bathroom. And I mean, a tiny ass little room, like about this big, just a tiny little room, 10 by 10. And then maybe the toilet was communal. But sometimes he would put the band up in these little rooms. He had them cleaned out and put to use, so he could say, "Hey, well, if you want to come up, I'll pay you this price, but I'll also throw in, this amount of free drinks and a place to stay," and that would usually get people to come up for the price that he was offering, right? Which was a really smart thing. But that also started my first experiences since the 80s hanging out with the band after the show, right? And I never really cared about it, thought one way or the other too much about it as a kid, as a teenager, going to Hollywood to help roadie the band and then going to hang out with them afterwards, because they were just people we knew, right? But to go to, ooh, wow, you were really cool on stage, man, and then hang out and get high and drink and stuff till 2 or 3 in the morning, that was new, right? So, but I haven't had anything like meeting Big Sandy, meeting Ben Harper and his daughter, meeting Mitch Rowland and Sarah Jones, right? And I've had in one 8-day period, I've had so many fangasms that I thought I was just going to tremble myself to death and just fall on the ground flopping, literally. I mean, fangasmed out, man. Shoot. I mean, I don't know where to go from here. Hanging out, meeting somebody like Big Sandy again, going to another local show, or just hooking up somewhere and hanging out would be like, oh, right? Of course, I'm just some crazy old weird bearded guy, right? But to sit with one of these people and have just a regular conversation would be pretty freaking awesome, right? Whether it be Big Sandy or Lucas Nelson or Ben Harper or Mitch Rowland or Matty Healy or anybody, any one of those people that I've gone to see or want to go to see, or have just been in awe of, yeah, totally, just to go to a show, just to be, in the same room with someone while they're doing their stuff, I mean, a lot of times I can't even use the camera to record this shit because I don't want to look at it through a lens. I want to remember it up here. I want to think back and have that inside of me, not inside of my phone or on a file. On occasion, I will start recording something and then find a good spot to hold it and then look over my phone because I want that. I'll have to put the phone in a spot where I'm not seeing the screen in my peripheral because I don't want that a part of my remembrance, part of my experience. I'm a weird dude. I can't help it. I'm a weird old guy. It's just the way I am. I want to experience life. I don't always get to or want to go out into the world and experience the way everyone else does. But I do want to experience life when I'm experiencing life. I don't want to, like I said, look at life through my telephone. I cannot stand to watch somebody on their phone all day, every day, doing this, right? And saying, "Oh, dude, check out this video. Oh, dude, check out this video." That's not living. All right, that's being programmed and just doing what you're programmed to do, right? I can't fucking do that. I can't live like that. This, for me, this is meaningful. This is a shared experience. It's not always, back and forth, right? Live. But it is a meaningful experience. It means something to me. It may or may not mean something to whoever comes along and views it. I know that the people who I have engaged, those engagements have been meaningful to me, extremely meaningful. The conversations with Enviced, Crim, Mike in the Garage, Guerrilla Gold Hunters, those engaging opportunities with people from, parts known and unknown, that's living for me. Would I love the opportunity to just jump in my van and drive 100 miles somewhere and see somebody new? Oh, hell yeah. The whole reason I bought that van was to do that, and I wish I had, more of that opportunity. At some point things are going to happen that are going to, things happened so that I could buy that van. Things happened so that I could be in this place, do the work that I do. Things happened so that I could sit here and do this with everyone. Things happened in my life that caused me the need to go out and find all of these stupid little knickknacks around here, and drag them home, and ooh, you only want a quarter for that. Ooh, you only want $5 for that. Ooh, gosh, you're giving that away. God, I'll take it all. Where are you going to put all that shit? I don't know. I'll figure out something of it. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. But at some point, it's going to be worth something to somebody, and I'll be able to maybe sell it off and make some money. I don't know. When I die, I'll try to put price tags on everything before I go. How's that? And then you can just start auctioning it off. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. I mean, I have these things so that I can enjoy them and play with them and entertain myself, entertain others, use them for projects like this reel to reel over here. All right. Or this one up here. They're the same thing, same model, same year, same brand. I'm going to use one of them, probably this one, because it's linked to my receiver that has Bluetooth that links to my phone. I'll use it to record Big Sandy onto reel to reel, right? And at some point, hopefully, get him copies of his own stuff on reel to reel. Wouldn't that be sweet? Oh, by the way, here's your catalog of music on old school reel to reel, which they would have been using to listen to back in the 50s and 60s, right? Wow, that would be sweet. Create the labels for the boxes, the track list, the photographs, the art. I mean, I just spent last night putting together a 90-second promo for a friend because he asked, how do you put a commercial on YouTube? And we looked and thought, well, gosh, that's pretty expensive. But I could put one on my channel if it's made by me and I post it and it's original. Well, then I can put my own shit on there, right? Advertise whatever I want as long as it doesn't have any blood or gore or violence or crime or anything, right? So that's cool. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to make my own freaking commercial for this guy and we'll just post it and he can share it. And I was thinking, well, that's neat. Well, I can do other shit too, right? So yeah, everything just kind of leads to something else, I've put some of my father's stuff from reel to reel onto YouTube, and I've got a whole bunch more reel to reel stuff to put onto YouTube, right? And I thought, well, why not take some YouTube stuff and put it onto reel to reel? And my first thing is, well, okay, I want to do Big Sandy because, first of all, I can listen to it anytime, especially if I don't have any internet connection, which happens a lot on my part of town here. For some reason, I get lousy phone reception, right? So I thought, okay, well, I can just throw on Big Sandy and let it play for an hour, right? And then eventually, do other things that I can't find on LP, right? Like there's some of the baby metal stuff that I can only find on YouTube. I'd like to pump on Gimme Chocolate and crank that shit up, right? And other things, and live stuff that like Big Sandy or Lucas Nelson has done that they don't have on record. Put together a collection of my favorite stuff, and then I can go from reel to reel and just throw it up onto cassette, take it to the car with me. But it's just part of my experiencing life through vintage eyes, right? That's it. That's all it's about. So I go out into the world and I engage people through my vintage ways. The lady, back to the Lucas Nelson and the lady with her daughter, that whole situation. I went into that experience with that lady from the beginning through those eyes of my hippie counterculture upbringing, and in the kind of philosophy like, okay, hug first, and then whatever you need, we'll talk about it. But and I wanted to just say, oh yeah, hugs, no worries, give them both a hug and then go, and that would have, but I couldn't do that because I'm a guy and they were two girls and I just didn't want to seem, too forward. I hope at some point she remembers Crazy Old Weird Bearded Guy, and I should have just made her take a picture of my screen, but at some point, I wish that she would contact me so we could relive that moment together. But I try to go out into the world looking through the rose-colored glasses of my hippie upbringing, and it's all good, peace, love, and understanding, and I'm pretty anachronistic that way. People look at me and go, "What the fuck's wrong with this dude?" Because there are a lot of hipsters out there who may look very similar, but you can see that their beards are over groomed and their skin has a spa-like complexion, and they've got manicures, and their tattoos are like immaculately expensive, right? And you think, yeah, these are pseudo hippies, these are hipsters, right? Whereas if you try to get a kind word out of them, they're like, fuck you, you know, I'm going home for the fucking game. Fuck you, asshole. Uh, so people now look at me and they think, wow, this guy's a throwback. I mean, really, literally, he looks like a throwback. But when you talk to him, he's a throwback because, you know, I'll give you the time of day, you know, and then we can talk about clocks for a while if you want, you know. I used to like hourglasses, man. You like hourglasses? You remember on the Flintstones when the watch was an hourglass, right? Is that cool, or how does that work? It's a cartoon, man. So yeah, if I have to go out and engage the world, I want it to be an opportunity, an experience for not just me, but for the other person involved. I don't want to go out and do group engagements. I can't find enough people in one room that I want to get in. Maybe one or two people in a room of a couple hundred people that I'm going to want to really, you know, have any one-on-one with. For the most part, I don't even want to be in a room with that many people unless there's a good reason, and I don't want to be that reason. Which, you know, open mic night, not alone, not just me. Maybe at some point, if it's a small room, the couple of people, and where I know most of the people in the room, I can probably deal with that. You know, it's not, you know, I'd rather be here with 1,000 or 10,000 people watching, doing exactly this, than, you know, anything like getting up on stage. You know, not even when I was young was I comfortable doing it. Yeah, I did it for the experience, but I was never comfortable doing it. You know, that's just not me. It's just not. You know, being in the audience and interacting with people, being in a smaller venue and being close enough to interact with the artists, or being able to, you know, catch them at the back door or something, you know, and actually have a little bit of back and forth. You know, I ain't a good looking guy. I ain't, uh, you know, I don't have the best complexion or the best teeth, or, you know, I've always been an odd duck, you know. So as weird and as hairy and as crazy as I am, people kind of give me the stink eye, you know. Rarely will I meet people who uh, look at me and don't see, they just see a guy, you know. And it's been really neat that that I had the opportunity lately to meet those artists. Uh, I mean, to meet, you know, to meet Big Sandy, back in December, you know, and he was so sweet, and generous with his time. Uh, and then Ben Harper, who was just, I mean, acted like, hey bro, what's up? You know, I mean, it's that Southern California skateboarder mentality, right? And you know, that's how I grew up. You know, everybody was like, hey bro, hey dude, what's up? What's going on, man? You know, even if you didn't even know that person, you know, it was just, that's, you know. And it's neat to still see that in somebody my age, right? Or meeting Mitch and Sarah, And that was neat because he was very, very nice and polite. But you could tell that this wasn't his forte. He was like not really into fangasms, right? He was not into people oohing and awing over him. He was not used to that, and which made it even, he was so humble, it made it even more of a moment for me. I wish my daughter had been there, but she would have cried. Like she said, she would have cried the whole time. And it would have been a great photo op. I would have loved to get her standing there bawling in between those two. But she was watching the show and I couldn't pull her away, not knowing if there was going to be an encore. And I literally ran to the door and waited until they walked out and then ran over there and hit them up. But they were so sweet. They were just so nice, unassuming, very cordial, very courteous, very just sweet people. Her so even more. I mean, she was, I think she had probably was used to this a little bit more. I don't know whether it was because she was of her feminine abilities. I don't know. It was really, really neat. And if I get the experience again, it'll never be anything like this, because this was just wow. I'm going to go out of my way to try to create more experiences like that for myself and my daughter and for anyone with me, because this is it. You get one chance at life, and you start getting toward the end and you really start feeling mortality clicking at your heels, and you think, you know what, I want to have more experiences like this, and I made those experiences happen. I turned and said, hey, Big Sandy, can I get a hug? I turned and said, hey, look, it's Ben Harper, can I get a photo? Hey, look, it's Mitch, can I get an album sign? I did that. I went out of my way to make those things, those moments happen in my life. And now I can sit here and just freaking beam about, and I'm still beaming, you know. I'm still beaming about last year's show and being, 5 feet from Lucas Nelson while he's on the piano playing Smile, right? I mean, literally, had I been in the right frame of mind and had the wherewithal, I would have put my fist out and gotten a fist bump from the guy. He was that close, right? But I was fandom, fandemonium. But yeah, I mean, and even being at the forum so far away from the stage, looking down, and seeing new stuff, Harry Styles, the 1975, and Paramore, and and wanting to see these people once, and then going, yeah, I want to see them again. Hell yeah, yes, yes, yes. I mean, my daughter just now got shows for another concert, and I don't even remember where it was that she said that we're going next. I'll have to ask her and write it down in my book. Where are we going again? I know that she wants to go to emo night at Pappy and Harriet's up here, and it's so cool that her friend wants to go. I don't have to, unless they need an adult with them, I don't have to worry about going, right? So if I don't think that they need an adult. I think it's 18 and over, all ages. I think it's all ages, under 18, accompanied by an adult. Over 18, you just can't drink unless you're 21 with the wrist thing that says you can drink, right? That's it. I believe them's the rules. So hopefully she can go with her friend. If I need to go up there that night with them and say, hey, look, I'm here all the time. These are my kids, If I got to do something like that, I'll do that. You know, I'm a dad. I'll do the dad thing. You know, I'll go buy a fucking ticket at twice the price and go sit there and get them in, and then freaking go home if I have to, or sit there and watch the whole fucking show. I don't care. You know, I'm the one that she calls when she wants to go to a concert, but she just wants to take a friend and just needs a ride. And I'm okay with that. My father's done that for me a couple of times while I was a kid. And that's just what you do, you know. I am the taxi man and concert buddy. Whatever capacity you need me, that's where I'm at. That's what you want. That's where I'm at. Do I want more coffee? Damn straight I want more coffee. Am I going to drink some? Probably not. I'll probably have some breakfast. And then get ready to do some work. Maybe work will happen early. I can get out of the way early. I don't think I'm going to go longer than 9 today because I want to get that Big Sandy video uploaded before I go to work, and I want to eat something before I go to work. So there. Yeah, I'm still having a fangasm about the last week, or I did the last couple of years. I mean, it's just been crazy. Just crazy. You know, from the time my daughter saw Harry Styles in 2021, and then the following year saw him again in 2022, when I went with her. From then, we've seen like 12. I've seen 12 shows. She's seen like 18 or something, right? It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. You know, going to shows with her, I've pretty much already wiped out my 80s, you know. So I didn't see a whole lot of shows when I was young. I just saw some really good shows, right? But we've already surpassed that count from the 80s, 70s, and 80s. I saw 2 concerts in the 70s, and then, you know, a handful in the 80s. A handful or more, but I'm pretty sure that we've surpassed my 80s concert count with my daughter's last year and a half count. I mean, my goodness. And she's gone crazy. She keeps going to more and more shows by herself with her friends. So she's gonna outshine me in my whole concert experience, my whole life pretty soon. And she's only been doing it a couple of years. Fucking A. That's awesome. That's experience. I hope that she really gets into the music thing, because music is really an important part of life. And she has the music gene, right? If it wasn't for taking Spanish in high school and psychology in college, she probably would have studied music, right? But she is a rational, logical thinking person, so she's going after the most responsible degree, right? There's a lot of musicians out there, a lot of unemployed musicians working in piano bars and that kind of shits, or garage bands, and, you know, having to work 2 other jobs and never really get to do what they want to do, right? This way she can do what she wants to do, and have the opportunity to then play with music and art on her own time. And she'll have the time because she will be able to write her own ticket. Yeah, sure, I might be thinking, you know, in a dream state. But why not? I think she has the capacity to deal with it. She's done everything else on her own. You know, I stopped helping her with homework back in the 5th or 6th grade because things changed so much. I had no clue what she was doing or studying or how to do the new math. And, you know, I mean, she'd ask me a question, I'd have to look it up. And then I still wouldn't understand, right? She had to get smarter than me so that she could do the work that they require students to do today, right? And which is great because we want our children to be smarter than we are. We want them to have more opportunity, be able to do more, see more, experience more. You know, of course, with all the schoolwork, she hasn't gotten to do a whole lot, right? I think it'll pay off. She'll, you know, it's already starting to pay off that she's allowing herself to have more opportunities that she creates for herself, just like me hitting up these artists for a photo op, you know, and a meaningful interaction, you know, that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. You know, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have that hug with Big Sandy, or that firm handshake with and that eye contact with Ben Harper, you know, or that smile from Sarah Jones, right? If it never goes any further than this, I'm going to carry this with me the rest of my life. Even if I meet 100 other artists, I'm still going to carry this and each experience with me for the rest of my life because it's so meaningful. They're brief encounters that just mean so much inside, you know. I don't know who or how I'm going to meet the next artist, but I can't wait. You know, where are we going next time, right? Where are we going next time? My daughter is going to see. Oh, that's what it is. My daughter is going to see I Don't Know How, But They Found Me. And that is going to be her 15th show. The 16th show of the year is just me. I mean, actually, this count is way weird. Yeah, she's up to 15 shows at the next show in April. And then here it is, the next show that she and I are going to see. She just got tickets for in July is Motion City Soundtrack. Oh, I just started listening to this group thanks to my daughter. And I think this is like their 20th year show or something, if I'm not mistaken. So really, I have been completely out of music, out of touch, out of it completely for 30 years, since 95. I just slowly walked away from the radio and went into a tape collection, a CD collection, listening to the 70s music channel, 80s music channel, just kind of listening to stuff from the past. The last couple of groups that I was interested in the 90s was like Four Non Blondes, right? And then the last new group that I was into was a group called Box Set from Northern California. And that was it. After that, I lost my CD collection and just said, fuck it. Turned the radio off, went to talk radio, put in old time radio shows. And it wasn't until just recently, the last 5 or 6 years, that my daughter has been pulling me more and more back into the music scene. And look, 2021, she saw one show. 2022, she saw 2 shows. 2023, she saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows, right? Six shows. 2024, she's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shows so far. 9 if the emo thing. So, and that's just this year. So every show, every year, she has doubled geometric progression, right? 1 and then 2 and then 6 and then, I mean, it's just, yeah. I hope for her only the best and only more and more and more shows, festivals, shows, whatever. Finding good concert buddies is awesome. I am one of her concert buddies. She has a friend, Charlie, who is a concert buddy, a friend, Deja, who is a concert buddy, a friend, Lily and Audrey, who I hope are going to become concert buddies. Because my daughter is fun to go to a concert with. She's not a rowdy chick. She's not one who is like, yeah, let's party, tailgate, woo, let's get drunk. She's not like that. She's like, let's get costumes, let's dress for the show, let's make things to take with us. Let's get there early so we can buy merchandise and take photos. You know, we want to see all of the opening acts. She likes to record all of her favorite groups, the whole show. She'll record every song. She likes the after show routine of going to In-N-Out and partying. She's into conversation and talking about the show. She likes to put a playlist together and listen to music all the way out there. She's into navigation. She'll know knowing how to get there, what traffic's like, how to reroute, where parking is, how much to pay, prepay, everything. I mean, if you ask my daughter, let's go to a show, 15 minutes later, she's got the tickets, she's got the route, she's got the day planned out. She's like, we're fucking set. It's on the calendar. You know? I asked her to set up my master stuff on my phone and take care of my Lucas Nelson tickets for this last show. And it was the easiest experience I've ever had going to a concert. Thank you so much, my daughter. You are beautiful. You are the most awesome person in the world, and you're very smart and caring and courteous. And yeah. Wow. Oh. Sam's starting to stir over there. Had to get out of his blanket. He was a little warm. All right, people. We're winding down the show. This is the end of our 4th hour. The last trimester of our 4th hour. The last 20 minutes. This is my Sony camera back here. It's a 1982 Sony Trinicon 2400. The 24? Yeah, it's the 2400. Automatic zoom, shutter. Lots of cool controls, eyepiece. I can plug it into my TV, plug it into a VCR, plug it into a Betamax or a U-matic or whatever I've got lying around here. You can't see it, but right down under here, I've got my, what is that, the 79? I believe it's my VO 7900 Sony U-matic 3/4 inch tape deck for playing these big tapes back here. I brought it out, had it up here on this table for a little bit. My plan is to link it to my computer and start doing some digital downloads, digital uploads of my U-matic tapes. All of our family, produced, directed, written by my, that kind of family shit. everything, including nuts. So I'm going to be uploading some of that stuff to YouTube in different formats, different through different segments. I'll bring some of that stuff to you, as well as more concert footage from whatever shows the YouTube algorithm gods will allow me to bring to you. I tried to upload a short of a Lucas Nelson show, and that one was pulled, yet the whole video of that song remains. So please watch it. It's a great shot, a couple of feet away from Lucas Nelson playing the piano during the song Smile. And I just saw him play that song again at the show last week. He finished up the show with that. Everybody walked off stage, and he's decided to sit down and play one more song. And so he played that one. While I didn't get to hear Out in LA, that just means that I'm going to have to go to more shows to try to catch that song. Now, of course, I should have gone out to LA to see him the following night, because I just might have been able to see that song and to hear it played live. But next time. And at some point, maybe I'll get to shake his hand and share a moment with him. That'd be neat. That would be great for this crazy old weird bearded guy. Let's see. I am going to get back into playing my yo-yo, my Dairy Queen yo-yo, because it's fun and it helps with hand-eye coordination. So I'm going to leave my yo-yo out on the table here, and I will, I think, take it outside and give it a good coat of lacquer, spray some lacquer on it to make it nice and shiny, but to keep the handprints off of it. Yeah. So the next show that I'm going to is probably going to be out at Pappy and Harriet's, because mine. Do you know what Particle Boy is? If you don't know Particle Boy is Micah Nelson, Lucas Nelson's brother, one of Willie Nelson's other sons. Okay. His Particle Kid. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get tickets to that. I really, really want to go to help support the Nelson brothers, and to check out Particle Kid. He's got some really crazy shit, and I really want to check it out. He's the different one, like me. So yeah, that would be cool. And then some friends from out here, Mike Craftsman and the Low Down Brass Band, they're playing on the 20th of April, 420. So obvious reasons why they're playing 420. Now that I would really like to get tickets for. Now, in May. In May, the Psychedelic Furs at Agua Caliente, right? Which means I'm going to have to start listening to the radio and see if I can't win some more tickets. We get, more tickets out here to shows, just listening to the radio. Tickets to, Disneyland. My wife won us 4 tickets to Disneyland one year. I won us tickets to the La Quinta Art Festival out here one year, our first year out here. Just recently, I won 2 tickets to Richard Marx, and that was a really bitchin' show. A friend who gets tickets from a casino out here gifted us 2 tickets to a Snoop Dogg concert. So I took my friend, and he just told me recently that that was one of the most pivotal shows in his life because it was like seeing an icon like that, and then having that kind of musical change happen. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to get back onto the radio and start listening to the radio again, which means uh, turning on this radio if I'm not here, cranking on the car radio, or taking a little boom box to work and flipping on the radio there, which is more than likely going to happen if I've got to leave the house during the week. Usually they give away tickets like Tuesday to Thursday type thing, right? They want you to listen during the week. So they threaten to give away tickets all week long. And then like Thursday or Friday, they give away a couple of tickets. So if I can, you know, uh, if I can do that, that'd be awesome. Also, little shows pop up here and there, free shows, casino shows that aren't real expensive. Um, we saw out here at the local casino Tortoise Rock. Uh, it's a little place out in 29 Palms. Um, we saw a Heart tribute band called Dog and Butterfly, and they were phenomenal. Okay, I've seen live videos, many live videos of Heart. Uh, but nothing compared to this live act, Dog and Butterfly. It was so good. It actually made me think, well, I don't need to go see Heart now. In fact, Heart, right after that, Heart came into town, and I was like, we should win tickets to go see Heart. And it's like, yeah, if I can send you and Natalie, because I've already been there and I've already done that. I don't need to see. Um, I don't need to see it now. These, while they didn't play a couple of songs like Dog and Butterfly, you know, I, I don't need, I don't need to do that. I had that experience. You know, the drummer, the drummer was pretty cool at Dog and Butterfly. I was sitting off to the right side of the stage, off on my left, um, and I was just, my eyes were like glued to the drummer because he was just having so much fun. And he, every once in a while, he'd drop a stick or make a mistake or something. It was really good, but he kept having too much fun. And he looked over and he kept catching me, watching him, and catching him doing his things, right? So that after the show, um, uh, when they got up there and did a group bow and stuff and a photo op and a time to go talk to people, I went over and gave him a fist bump, and he said, you were watching me, you caught me making all my mistakes, and we had a moment there where I let him know that you know he was my favorite moment of the night, was watching him throughout the evening doing his stuff. Great drummer, great Frank. If I'm not mistaken, I'm probably mistaken. Frank something or other. It's probably not Frank. Geez, my name's Roy. His drum had a really nice front skin on his bass drum. I think it had his name on it. Um, but it was just, I mean, the act was just spot on Heart. It was great. I want to see him again. Yeah, if they come out here again, I'm going to go for sure see him again. They had been out here like most people that come out here, the tribute bands and bands that go out to Pappy and Harriet's, they're repeat customers, right? Um, so I'm hoping that we get Lucas Nelson out again. I'm hoping that before too long we get Big Sandy again. Maybe it'll be an annual thing to have these guys out. Um, it's a pretty regular thing for them to have really good acts uh, out here. especially Pappy and Harriet's. So yeah, I can't wait for the next exciting chapter of musical entertainment in my life. This last week was a hell of a chapter. I mean, you know, the Pappy and Harriet's and Mitch Nelson experience. I mean, Mitch Rowland experience, and Ben Harper and Sarah Jones and Harris Harper, and hanging out with our friends and doing that and sharing that experience with them, because he was like, wow, this is new to me, right? And then taking my daughter to see Fall Out Boy, and my wife and I going to downtown Disney for the evening, and that was a neat outing. And then the following night going back out, you know, just a few miles down the road from the Honda Center to go to the observatory and see Lucas Nelson. I mean, this whole week has been a hell of a chapter. You know, it's like every week it's this show or videos or open mic night or hanging out with my friend playing guitar. There's always something new rolling, right? It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And I don't want to let go of that. So I just keep finding ways to, and my chapters used to be a year, 2 years, one big slate. Just this last couple of years, we've gone from chapters lasting months and years to down to lasting days and weeks. And it's a continuing novel. It just keeps expanding and getting big. Each chapter, I change a little more and revert a little more, and, you know, explore a little more and bring in a little more. It's just, yeah. Sleep. I don't eat enough. You know, I'm going, all my teeth are falling out. My spine is horrendous. My house is going to do, and, you know, be a subcontractor to myself, right? So, and my, you know, I used to be a mechanic, and I can't even work on my own car anymore, you know. Spent thousands of dollars twice, you know, rescuing and taking care of somebody who, you know, wiped their ass with me, and I should have used that money to fix up my car and fix up my house. Instead, I used all that time and energy and money on somebody else and got nothing in return. You know, not that I required any financial return on my investment. I required some kind of, you know, human return on my investment. Get your act together, get out of the bum, and move on with your life. That is a payback for me. You know, it was a kick in the teeth when, you know, it was like, fuck you, you know, and I didn't even get a thank you for my help. You know, it was, you know, things are getting tough now, so I'm gone. I'm a big pussy and I'm going to run off. Anyway, I promised not to vent this last hour. So, you know, the rest of my life just kind of falls apart, and I just kind of keep going, you know. I wish someone would, you know, what do you call that? Crowdsource me a new home, or crowdsource me a mechanic who could fix my van once and for all, so that I could take this show on the road, right? That would be great if this show could become mobile, fill it full of a bunch of mobile camera equipment, go out, film stuff, and do live location stuff. I can't do it comfortably in my van because I'm afraid it's just going to break down and I'll have to get towed home. So I can't do any faraway stuff. I can go live now on my phone. So I will be trying to bring more live stuff out in the world. One of my big things is to go live Friday night from town. And that means off and on live stuff. And what I'll probably do is I'll just walk down from here live into town, walk around Joshua Tree, walk into a lot of the things that are going on, because there's always something going on down here. on any given night, there could be a half a dozen live musical acts, poetry reading, hip hop, anything can happen out here, you know. So I want to do some of that live. And I want to do some traveling where I can go do interviews with people, you know, just like I'm trying to meet people here. I'd like to go out into the world and do that and then bring them here. So yeah, let's get together tomorrow for another exciting adventure of Mornings with Crazy Old Weird Bearded Guy. And I will see you on the flip flop. Thank you so much for joining me in a rerun on the playlist, and leave a comment. I will see you guys. Bye. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.